Welcome to Hami Media Group, or as the cool kids say, HMG. We're here to provide you with the very best entertainment alternative media has to offer. Thank you to all our supporters who have made us what we are today. Follow us on social media, video, and podcast platforms at Hami Media Group. Become a subscriber to Hami Media Group at patreon.com for great free daily content as well as off-the-top rope extras. Subscribe to our affiliate Patreon channels with a plethora of fun content on various tiers that will bring tears of joy to your eyes. Vince Russo's The Brand, the Rip Rogers FR Podcast, Stevie Ray TV, Goldilocks, The A Show with Aaron Stevens and April Hunter, The Two-Man Power Trip, Velvet Sky and Angelina Love, the beautiful people. And now, the Larry Hankin Stories. Support your favorite HMG and independent pro wrestling talent at ProWrestlingTees.com. Enjoy the ultimate meal with Zourdo's Ultra Premium Extra Virgin Olive Oil. Head over to ZourdosOliveOil.com. Start your day with the best cup of joe, bro. Try a fantastic selection of flavorful coffee blends at thebroasters.com. StevieRichardsFitness.com. Get off that couch and make a healthy change without leaving your home. Amazing resistance band and yoga workout programs at an affordable price that will help you become a band new you. Hear from the pros who live the biz, bro, with talent that have worked for every major organization led by the man who put the attitude back in pro wrestling and in your ear holes. It's gotta be RussosBrand.com, bro. Again, we'd like to thank you for joining us here at HMG, and now it's time to be entertained.
By the fans, for the fans. You're listening to the Smack Attack.
Scottish brogue. He is on vacation in a place called Blackpool. I don't know if I would go to Blackpool, a place named Blackpool, for vacation, but that's just me. But anyway, MacGyver's not here. So what do? We call in the best of the best. We call the vets. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming back to the Smack Attack once again, the vet. Give it up for him, ladies and gentlemen. Woo!
Oh, please. You're too kind. You're too kind.
Dude, you should just start being a part of the show regularly. You've been on so many shows lately.
Yeah, I talked about this a little bit with James, like off the air before, but I as much as I love being a part of shows and filling in for people and just generally getting myself out there, and the fans seem to respond really well. I even noticed like the YouTube views and stuff are just a little bit higher when the vet's on Smack Attack, but the idea is that one of the cool things about HMG with the personalities and stuff is that the shows have an identity,
yeah.
And I do not want to saturate everything and just make it, the VMG.
Right.
So I never have a problem hanging out, filling in, just being a little guest on the couch. But, it's you guys, it's you and James, you're the team, and I'm just here to support the team in any way that I can. And I think that's really important, I already feel guilty having two shows, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So but that being said, I'm happy to do it. And I have a lot of fun when I do. And hopefully you guys do too.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, you've always you bring great insights to us, because James, like we always say, James and I are fans. We don't necessarily we just look at it from a fan standpoint, and sometimes things don't make sense to us, whereas you can explain it to us in a way where we get it. And so we're very thankful for that insight, for that. I mean, I'm on 2 shows, so I understand, between the Star Trek show and this show, which are completely different. I'm not
sure. That's wrestling. Why it works for you.
Yeah,
because the content difference.
It's kind of, the running joke was with the Realm is like, you're gonna have freemium John on the Academy, and you're gonna have pay for John, with the Smack Attack. So that was the running joke there for a while that James and I were doing. So, but that's, which as a matter of fact, I've got to record that tomorrow. Me and Triple D are gonna record another episode. We had Big Ray on for our latest episode, which dropped this week.
Right. He had a lot of fun, he said.
Oh, dude, we had so much fun. He's such a good dude. And, it's for us, Triple D and I have been fans since we were kids. And so to watch someone like Ray first time watch stuff and just to see the first that he's going to get to experience and watch his take on those things is so cool to watch as a fan who's an older fan, who's been around, who knows the lore, who knows everything about it. You watch this guy do it and see what he takes out of it. And then sometimes he takes things out of it. You're like, holy shit, I didn't even think of that, So it's really cool to have somebody like that come in. We're going to have him back on once he gets through season 3 and watches the beginning of season 4. There's a huge cliffhanger there. And so, which is, when I watched it in season 3, you're a kid and you see this and it's like, holy shit, because you have the whole summer to wait until August or September to watch what happened. And I'm telling you, everybody wanted to know what happened, at the end of that cliffhanger. So it's like, holy cow.
And you're talking about TNG, right?
Right, for TNG.
Just to clarify, because I didn't remember if you said it just now. But
No. Yeah. So Ray's watching TNG first, and then he's going to go back and go TOS. And we gave him a chronological order of, like, he wants the actual, like, 2021 to 2027, like whatever that chronological order is in their timeline. So, we gave him an order to watch because some of them overlap. Like TNG overlaps towards the end with Deep Space Nine, and then Deep Space Nine towards the end overlaps a little bit with Voyager. So we gave him some kind of ways to watch if you want to watch, progressively and see how like the technology advances and things like that. So so it's fun to be able to do that kind of stuff and have conversations like that.
Well, to that point, John, that's one of the reasons that I do like being on the Smack Attack with fans, as you call yourselves, because I can't see it through your guys' eyes anymore with my own eyes. So I need you to see things and tell me what it's like to even remotely enjoy some of the stuff. And we're going to talk about how much unenjoyable stuff that we saw. But even those like little tiny like snippets of goodness or whatever, that sometimes I can't even appreciate that anymore, just because I've already seen how the sausage is made. This stuff is all bullshit to me. You know what I mean? I just, I don't get that from WWE anymore, certainly, and hardly very much pro wrestling in general. So I do find it fascinating to interact with fans, on the proverbial street, like people I personally know, because they're not the same as the fans that are smartened up. Like a lot of wrestling fans, they don't care about Twitter and they don't know what the sheets say. And they really do somewhat half-ass still treat this like it's real. So I like getting those different perspectives because it gives me a more informed perspective on if I have to speak to what direction do I think they should be going versus where they are. Like when the WWE is trying to spit out this, when you hear guys like Nick Khan, who just did that interview with Ariel Helwani, I don't know if you caught any of that, but like he's towing the company line and he's a smart guy, but he's saying a lot of like corporate jargon and doing those kind of things and being diplomatic about these answers and stuff. And it's like, what can a guy like that? He doesn't know what the regular people are like. He doesn't know what the fans think. He has he's completely removed from that. So is everybody else in those departments. And they're all making guesses based on, whatever research, focus groups, this other stuff. And they don't know what really the majority of the people that are their fan base think, because it's not always the people that start the chants in the arena. That's not your main fan base. If you only had smart fans as a fan base, WWE would fold up in 6 months.
Right. Yeah. So how do they do that? How do they make those adjustments? Being have a degree in radio, TV, and production, part of what you do is you do test things, you show people different things ahead of time. Hey, what does this show work? Hey, if we made a show, like I've been on these things too, where you get these focus groups where, hey, if we did watch this show, tell us what you think. There's a potential pilot we're going to have, give us your recommendations, stuff like that. I've been in on those kind of things before. It's very fascinating to watch, as a person doing the survey, plus watching other people do it. Do you think that's something WWE needs to do, like to pull in random people like they used to do in the malls and grab people and get their input? I mean, how do they go back to meeting the wider audience without dumbing it down for the people who are already involved?
It's sad to say, but I think they, as a juggernaut, may be too far gone to ever get back to like a grassroots type approach. They can't afford to spend the time on it, but they still do sometimes, when they do their little internet polls. If you go to their website, which I don't, but I just know that this happens. Every once in a while they'll put up like a fan poll and they'll talk about things like, what other wrestling companies do you watch? And they'll name the other companies. Like they're asking people things. So it's like they do acknowledge them in certain areas, but in the TV world, they're like in their own bubble. So I think a lot of what hurts them is that they're trying, like Vince McMahon's vision is to be anything but professional wrestling.
Right.
In terms of like the old style, like the NWA style, or those, those rugged fat guys with the wool diapers, that whole look, right? Like he wanted to be different than that. He wanted to be cartoon merchandise, superheroes, for real life superheroes and things like that, which is all great. Right. But even back then, you remember, it felt like sports. Like when Mean Gene was sitting in the control center giving you updates on what was coming up, that felt like a sports thing.
Yeah,
it didn't feel like just some old bullshit. So that vision has sort of transformed into, we're bigger than just wrestling, but branching out into entertainment and trying to or your reach exceeding your grasp. You're like, you try to do what movies and TV do, but it's not the same, because that's just a whole different thing, that you're mimicking what you think it is and not what it really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you.
So I think the key for WWE and all of the companies really, I think, is a focus back on sports a little bit more. And the reason I say that is because sports are very much more popular than they were 20, 30 years ago. There's a lot more money in it due to, lots due to gambling, basically. And also, which extends into like fantasy football, which is essentially just friendly, casual Dungeons and Dragons gambling. It's really not too different, but that's what it is. It's just disguised as a fun game,
right?
But it's still gambling, and I think that's increased the popularity of sports. And you even hear about the lines on professional wrestling matches, like people betting on that like idiots, But I think going back to a sports focus and trying to make people believe a little bit more, because I think people want to believe,
right?
And when you've got like a supernatural doll named Lily, you can't believe no matter how hard you try. So people get confused and they're like, what is this? I just think it needs to be big in the presentation, the way they can do it, but also scaled down in the focus of, on the television, this needs to be like a sporting event that a casual fan that watches sports can tune into and not feel completely alienated by.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
And that would be a gradual process if they were to do that. They could not just flip the switch overnight, hit the reset button. It would have to be like scaled back, and they might even have to incorporate some kayfabe storylines to get there.
Right. Unless you're NXT. which I don't know if you've seen the picture of those logos and stuff that's coming out now. I mean,
well,
you know,
yeah,
you
but they
know.
can, but they look at, but think of that like, yeah, that looks like it could be a reset button. On the other hand, that is one branch of WWE.
Right.
So now
Yeah.
imagine the whole company just saying like with a whole new mission statement.
Right.
That would almost be like admitting that the vision failed in a certain way. And
True.
it's hard to admit that you failed in any case, but it's certainly hard to admit failure or even talk about it when you're getting paid astronomical fees for television rights and things like that just make you feel like you're really winning.
Right.
You know?
Do you think they need to build characters as well? Like, so for example, they just announced, New Japan just announced for Dallas, for the 2 shows they're running here, that Suzuki and Osprey and Archer are going to be here. Mm-hmm. Which you said, the moment you said Suzuki, I was like, take my fucking money. You know, I mean, who doesn't want to see Suzuki live? I mean, so like I'm now scrambling, going, what's the closest seat I can get? And
I did it in 2017. I went to Death Before Dishonor to see him and Cody, but only really him.
Yeah, I mean, Lance and him are tagging against Tom Lawler and somebody else. So I mean, I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to go see that. You know, I want to see that. Right. And I mean, the opportunity to maybe meet the man, which has been a goal of mine since I've started New Japan Pro Wrestling and watching and knowing who Minoru Suzuki is, and the fact that me and my kid could possibly meet the man. You know, if I go,
you better brush up on your One Piece now, John. Walk up to this.
I'll let Suzuki, Jacob do that. I'll let my kid do that and be all impressive. And not that I say I'm not going to ask Lance to say, hey, do you think you could help us? You know,
right.
No, I'm not that person. You know, he's done stuff for me, and he said, hey, if you need this, do this. But I'm never that guy. I mean, I have friends who play in the NFL. Hey, if you ever want to go to a game, just let me know. And I've just never done that because I'd just rather be their friend than, you know, not because you're my friend because you give me tickets. You're my friend because I like you and I care about you. You know, that's the kind of person I am. And so, but God, if they have a meet and greet, I'll pay whatever to meet him and, you know, just to shake his hand and get a picture. Sure. You know,
so for characters, you were saying
for characters, yeah. Like, do you think it feels like they've lost that? You know, the character building. You know, because I had somebody mention the other day, oh, hey, you're doing that wrestling podcast. What about John Cena coming back? You know, I mean, they don't know anything about wrestling other than that John Cena came back. You know, and I heard Edge is back now too. You know, like they know those guys, but they don't know anybody on the roster now. So do you think the fact that they need to maybe get back to building characters who are bigger than life?
They think they are. That's the problem. What's happening is, and to tie it into NXT and all the turmoil that's been going on between those sort of like boy, I feel like we need a different podcast. But let me just kind of try to neatly sum it up in a way. When NXT was handing you guys just like signed, sealed, delivered, here's the gimmick, here's the music, here's the entrance, here's the, you know, this is the gear. Like they've decided on who they are down in NXT, and now they're ready to take that to the big stage. And then the WWE's like, well, why should we just accept this guy how he is? Why? Right. It's like you're not trusting your own process. Can you imagine if if you had I don't know if you're a baseball fan or and your team is the
Cardinals and the Rangers.
Okay, so a little bit of Texas, but I'm sure you're a Cardinals fan at heart, right? Yeah. Well, I don't know what their AAA affiliates are, but just imagine if they had a prospect up there, and then let's say he's like a good slugger or something, and then you put him in the let's say you have him, you bring him up, you call him up to the Cardinals, and then you have him like hitting like the 8th or 9th hole, and you know what I mean, against like all the other teams' aces and only the aces. Like when the aces are out there and they're on a hot streak, it's like now you pinch hit your prospect or whatever, and watch him take these L's. Like you wouldn't set the guy up to do that. You know what I mean? You would figure him in whatever way he could best complement your ball club and make an impact. Maybe that's just for pinch running. Maybe it's just for his glove. Whatever the case may be, you want to use him for the right tools. You don't want to just embarrass him on purpose just because, oh, kid, welcome to the big leagues. Ha ha ha. This is real baseball. It shouldn't be like that. It should be you're one company, and it's Triple H's job to get these guys ready. And then when Triple H is telling you, hey, I think you will like these guys, and the writers look at these guys, there's people whose job it is to watch tapes. You know, like writers watch tapes, or writers' assistants will watch tapes, and they'll be like, who can I do something with? Who would I be able to, you know what I mean? Like, how can I figure this person into the show? And they see who they like, and they can make their recommendations. And I'm sure there's like a lot of paperwork and red tape and a long, annoying process to do it. But eventually somebody's like, I think it's time for Keith Lee now. And then Vince McMahon sees Keith Lee and he's like, well, he's fat. So put a tennis skirt on him and give him a singlet and change his music. We can't have him talking about himself in his own music. And like you just, if you had just seen all this before, if someone had showed, I know Vince is busy, but if someone would have showed him 30 seconds of Keith Lee before, Vince could have said right there, I don't want that right now. So keep that. And then we would have saved all this embarrassment that we've had for the poor guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but Keith Lee's a character. He was a character. And what did they do? They had him come in. They thought it was smart to have him go over on Randy Orton. I thought it was the worst idea in the world, because where do you go from there but down? You already beat the top guy. So now what? So it's like, you know, that's their struggle. I don't think their struggle is creating characters being created. I think it's them doing everything they can to entertain themselves in a sort of sophomoric, you know, ribbing way than it is to actually try to make money with these guys. And I talked about this on I guess it was Ray and I were talking about this on the Next Level this week, where looking back, all the successes, all the great successes, almost every single one. I mean, there are some exceptions we could think of, but almost every single one was in spite of what the original plan was going to be. You know, think about it.
Right.
Hulk Hogan was already doing Hulk Hogan stuff in AWA.
Right.
And Vince just brought him in. But then after that, like, look at guys like, look at Stone Cold. Look how he came in. That was the vision for Stone Cold. And he had to fight that. He had to fight that. It was like, people think he just came in giving people stunners or drinking beers. No, it took 2 years to get to the point where people even liked him.
Right.
You know, look at The Rock. Look how he came in.
Yeah.
It's like he was trying to do everything right, and he kind of did, but the people got tired of it because they could feel like they were with him at first, but when it becomes too obvious that you're being force fed, they start to resist. Nobody wants to be held down and have stuff jammed in their mouth. Well, I don't want to say almost everybody doesn't like that, but that was not The Rock. The Rock was not The Rock for like a couple of years almost. And everybody else, like, just look at whatever John Cena, accident. What if he didn't do that rap that day and Stephanie McMahon didn't hear him on the bus or whatever the fuck the legend is? It's probably a complete, you know, farce, game of telephone where it's nothing like what it really was like. But whatever, if he hadn't done that time, he would still be just that guy with a generic name and generic trunks doing generic matches. And how do you miss with a guy like that? Look at Batista. Big movie star now. What do you come in at with a collection plate, like a collection box? He can like, they are trying to bury people, and people have to succeed in spite of that. And then the brainwash fans will say, "Oh yeah, that's the WWE testing them. That's them testing them." It's like, no, I think they thought that was the best idea that they had at the time.
Well, I mean, you look at like Terry Taylor as the Red Rooster. Like, what? Who? How do you give a guy like that a gimmick like that? Granted, you know, I know there's mixed emotions about Terry Taylor in the sense of, you know, he was a stooge and he reported everything to Meltzer. But still, how do you give a guy who was a pretty good wrestler a Red Rooster gimmick? You know, I mean, how are you supposed to get some of this stuff over? And you know, these guys of, oh, you're going to be a trash man, and you're going to be a repo man, and you're going to be, you know, you can't tell me. I mean, and some of these guys did, despite the shit gimmick they were given, they were able to get it over. But there's just some that you're like, there's no way you can really get something like that over. And
well, even if you look at that cartoon era of the early 90s before the mid 90s and stuff, like, kind of everybody was in that boat. So it was like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and maybe that's it. And then everybody else was some weird gimmick that was either a job or a obvious cartoon or like a clown or something. Even Doink the Clown was way cooler when he first started as an idea, but people only remember the silliness from later. And then so I mean, but just looking at guys that were super over that we look back as legendary, like I'm talking about, like the Cena's, Batistas, the Austin's, Rocks, maybe only the Undertaker was a guy that, but even the Undertaker, like at the beginning, he like, look who they made him work. You know what I mean? Look at the Giant Gonzalez's and the, all those the Mabels and the like it was like he succeeded in spite of all that. They tried to kill him. They tried to kill everybody. They've been working against themselves from the beginning. It was just kind of a revelation that we came to just through a casual conversation like this, but we were both like, hey, now, was there anybody that was a success that didn't just have to Daniel Bryan? Come on, look how long it took to get to where he should have already been. CM Punk, look how long it took to where he should have got to where he should have been. We can't give them the credit and say, oh, they're geniuses. They tested all these guys and they passed with flying colors. No, bro, they tried to bury them all, and the people just rejected the burials, or things just played out in the way they did. So it's in a situation now where things are so homogenized that it's a struggle for people to break through these creatives. And I want to talk more about that specifically in the Smackdown, when we're covering that Smackdown, which we'll get to, of how people are in these roles and they're completely miscast where it's obvious where they should be.
Right. So speaking of miscast, I guess, do we want to kind of go over SummerSlam at all? Was there anything at SummerSlam that like stuck out to you that was good, or just like, why is this on the card? I mean, the only thing that stuck out to me was the return of Brock Lesnar, and then at the end, it was like he walks in, Roman walks out, they go off, and then apparently you have to go online to watch him throw John Cena around. It doesn't even touch. It's
always
Roman.
A good time.
It's always a good time to watch, Brock, but he doesn't even touch Roman. But you have Paul Heyman, that look of like, oh my God, it's Brock Lesnar now. Which plays out in SmackDown tonight. But, other than that, that was the only thing I was able to take away, that I was going, okay, cool. That was a nice thing at the end, that Roman comes in and there's Paul Heyman going, what's happening? Uh-oh, my other client's coming, kind of thing.
What about the man? What about, like the man?
Dude, seriously, like, and not that I don't like Becky Lynch, but I hate the fact that they did it in 30 seconds on Bianca Belair, who's been working all this time to get herself over. And I like Bianca Belair. She's done the work. Not to say that I don't like Becky. I just wish it wouldn't have been, a 30-second, come in, get it done and out, kind of thing. It felt wasted, in a way.
There's a way to do that, the way they wanted to do it. But the way they set it up, you should have had a 10, 12, 15-minute match based on the way they set it up.
Right.
And you can't tell me that it was a time issue, because there was matches on that show that did not belong on that show. You cannot explain to me in a way that I will go, okay, that makes sense, why Eva Marie has a match on SummerSlam. Right. You can't explain to me why
Tis an ass.
I'm sorry, that like lots of people have that. You know what I mean? Like it's what was there was another match on there that just absolutely did not need to be on there.
I didn't feel like the Corbin Big E match needed to be there. It was ridiculous. It was dumb. To me, that match didn't need to be there. That it was almost like a SmackDown match got put on SummerSlam. It's something
was that really on the main show?
Yeah.
Or was that wasn't on the kickoff or something?
No, that was on the show, if I remember correctly.
Shit. Well, it was so long that I couldn't possibly remember what all matches were on it, but I know that it did, like, there was time that you could have given to Becky and Bianca. Right. However, if you wanted to do the quick surprise thing, you can still do that.
Right.
But
that was the kickoff match. Sorry. Big E and Baron Corbin was the kickoff, was the start of the show.
Okay. All right. I didn't know. I didn't watch that one. So, but yeah. So if you wanted to do what they ended up doing, the way you got to do it is you got to advertise, like it's got to be like, well, Sasha Banks isn't here. And that whole thing was weird anyway, but whatever about
they
that.
never said why she wasn't there. They just said
right.
Yeah,
which definitely makes you more intrigued.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she's not there. And then it should be like, you know, a mystery opponent is, and they can even do like, they can advertise it a mystery opponent, which then people will assume it's Becky Lynch. And then you've got one of those situations, but I think they wanted to make it more of an instant surprise. Neither way really matters in the long run. The only thing that matters is what they remember, and that's what she does, right? So you advertise a mystery opponent, and when she comes out as a mystery opponent, then it's more of like a shock and awe, sucker punch, finish move. Don't do something where, because it was weird the way they did it, how too, where Becky hits her with some move and then she's knocked out. And then after it was Becky celebrating, then she's conscious again and just like in disbelief, where it's like, well, I guess you're not hurt that bad, so you probably should have kicked out then, right? So maybe more like a quick something, and then boom, then Bianca's like, what? Becky's like, yeah. Everybody's like, huh? And then that's the confusion you want, and then you cut out all that Carmella business that didn't need to be there or whatever. But if you want to do it the way they did it, where you bring Carmella out, have this whole thing, then bring out Becky, then have her trash Carmella and do all that. Well, and then when the bell rings and they're both like hype and ready to go, it looks like a big fight now. So now I need to see 10 minutes. But you did the wrong thing of both of those scenarios. You put the worst parts of both those scenarios together, and that's what we got. So it's not so much that they jobbed Bianca out, it's that they didn't do the job out correctly to get both women over.
Right.
Because you can get over getting sucker punched and rolled up or whatever by Becky Lynch.
Right.
That can get you over if they do it right, you know, but they don't know how to do that shit anymore.
Yeah.
So,
it felt icky. Like it really did, you know, and I didn't like it at all. And I mean, there wasn't much. I mean, I think Damian Priest beat Sheamus for the United States title, which I didn't care about that.
Yeah, okay match, but no one really cares.
Yeah, I mean, they felt kind of out of nowhere that match was happening. You know, and I think Randy Orton and Riddle beat, you know, AJ and Omos, you know, for the championships on Raw. I don't know, like there was a lot of titles, but nothing that like I wanted to go watch. There was nothing that made me go, okay, I'm interested, until it was like, okay, I want to watch Roman Reigns, John Cena. That's the thing I wanted to watch. And then, you know, watching the match, I enjoyed it. It was a good John Cena match. You know, honestly, I can't call it a Roman Reigns match. I call it a good John Cena match. From my perspective, you might disagree with me on that.
No, it's the same. I mean, you know, I'm sure Roman had input on it. What he wanted, but John Cena, for the most part, does the right match. For whatever situation he's in. The finish may have been questionable over the years, but his matches are always usually the right match. But I mean, but one of the things that we'll bring up at the end, once we've covered everything and gotten to the end of the episode, is we'll talk about this. We'll relate it back to the SummerSlam in terms of like you're saying, if you like, I'm sure if you saw the clips of what happened, you would be just as satisfied as having sat through the 5 or 6 hours or whatever the hell this thing was, this monstrosity. And you wouldn't have had to worry about all the stuff that you didn't care about. You wouldn't have had to sit through it. But
which is what I did. I mean,
exactly. And I'm sure a lot of other people do, because people get hype hearing about things. And then they don't actually want to invest the time. Usually that's a mistake. Usually you want to invest the time because it pays off more. In this case, you can definitely just see the clips and get the gist of it.
Right.
So I thought SummerSlam was, it's really just a mixed bag, but overall too long and a lot of unnecessary stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but it's like, just to comment on this real quick, if for anybody, because I've heard this floating around, like if anybody thinks that the Becky Lynch's and the Brock Lesnar's and stuff were like a response to CM Punk which happened the previous night, by the way.
Right.
Like,
which we talked about on the last Mac Attack.
We talked about CM Punk last time, but but now that we know what happened after that, yeah, do not believe that for a second. You do not simply FedEx yourself a Brock Lesnar overnight just because some guy walked out on another show. That's not how Brock would do it. This has already been planned. This was always going to be the plan.
Yeah.
This is not reactionary.
But do you think that Becky Lynch was planned? Do you think that was planned, or do you think that was
well, we don't know because of the Sasha situation. Okay. We're never going to get a straight answer, and we can't trust the rumors.
Right.
So the speculation makes that difficult to call. But that is they're you know, inextricably linked. You can't say, oh well, Becky was always the plan, but clearly you advertised for Sasha.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense. But
yeah, because my argument was we were going to see her at the show here in Fort Worth because she's taking pictures in front of the arena. She's like, I'm here, I'm ready to go, you know, like stuff like that. Almost like, and so I'm thinking, well, shit, we're going to see her at Money in the Bank here in Fort Worth. You know, that'd be what a first live show, first pay-per-view with live fans. What a pop that was going to be. And then nothing happened from it. So I'm disappointed because I'm going, well, hell, I mean, you know, hey, that'd be great that she'd be in Texas and, you know, at Fort Worth, 20 minutes down the road from me. And, you know, she comes back there at the first live crowd. What a way to kick off, you know, Money in the Bank, even if it was just to come out and say, you know, hey, bitches, I'm back, you know, or something along those lines to show that she's back into the title hunt to make it, because that women's division needs help. And we see that a little bit tonight, that there's some more help coming. But, you know, that's where I'm like, okay, that would have been great. Didn't happen. So then when it comes out, she comes out here and then she beats Bianca in 30 seconds. And I mean, I watched the clip and I'm going, okay, great. That did nothing for anybody. You know,
well, just the fact that she showed up at the previous thing, if that wasn't just some Photoshop or whatever, but this is she's there, right?
Yeah, so, she was legit there.
Yeah, so that just shows you right there that she's already putting her toe in the water. Mm-hmm. So this is not like a last minute thing. They've just been thinking of where they want to. I'm not going to use the phrase "when's the right time to bring Becky back" because they have no fucking clue what they're doing. Let's just say when they think it's a good idea to bring Becky back, and so it wasn't just like, CM Punk walked out, we need Becky and Brock stat. Like it's not that. No, but people seriously do.
Thing was, I could see where that, but like the Becky thing, I'm more like knowing that I'd seen her at Money in the Bank, knowing that she was, you know, already kind of touring. She was in Fort Worth. She was kind of probably backstage for some of these places. You know, the Brock thing, I could see where people could make that correlation. But like you said, Brock's going to do what Brock's going to do. He's not.
If he's up on his farm somewhere, he is not going to just answer the phone and come down. He hates everything. He's not going to do that for you. So this was already set up a long time ago. How long, we don't know, but it's certainly not a 24-hour emergency Brock, you know, unfrozen emergency Brock Lesnar rations. We don't, it's not that. So get that thought out of your mind. Don't be stupid. But yeah, so that pretty much covers SummerSlam. I don't really have anything else to say, unless I'll be reminded of things probably as we're talking about this, because this is the post SummerSlam episode.
Right. So, yeah. Which we see the fallout from that. So I guess we'll get started. We see it starts off with, you know, Becky coming out, addressing the crowd, you know, and just, you know, being Becky, you know, like I felt a twinge of heelness in this, but not too big, you know, and
because now we're hearing, right, that the rumors again, right, that Becky's going to be a top heel and she wants to be a top heel and she was inspired by Roman Reigns to be a heel and all this other stuff, right? And so like that's what we've been hearing, and now the people that read that stuff now, they're looking at this with those eyes. But and before you continue real quick, I did find it odd that you know, Pat McAfee wasn't there for commentary, and Michael Cole on two separate occasions just straight up admitted he had COVID-19. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? It's something they don't normally do. It's almost like a banned phrase, or even though they have said it in the past on some of their, like, you know, some of their, get a vaccine spots that they like to do. They have said it, but generally they avoid it, in the broadcast terms. But they just straight up said, "Oh yeah, complications, COVID-19, can't be here."
And you had Kevin Owens out too. Like, did it take two people, Corey Graves and Kevin Owens, to make up for Pat McAfee? In that aspect, because there was some times throughout the night when you watched, you kind of hear Corey and Kevin kind of walking over each other as they're trying to talk. Because I guess they're, Corey's probably is used to a 3-man booth, but Kevin's not, and except for when Pat McAfee's out there. So there were times where I noticed, just kind of like, them walking on top of each other because of that. So it was different. It was a little weird to not have McAfee out there when you're used to him like this, because I find he makes the show move along a little bit better because of the way he announces things and views things. So, anyway, so we have Bianca come out. She does her thing, and we have EST. And I think for a while, for a moment there, it was even Becky and EST chants going at the same time. We talk about what happened. They talk about what happened, and then out comes Zelina, and out comes Carmella, and then Liv Morgan comes out. And Bianca tries to get back.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Liv Morgan.
I know. I'm so excited about all of this. All three of them. You really, honestly, like, this did to me. It did like Zelina Vega no favors, because she looked so tiny, like standing next to Becky Lynch, and Becky Lynch is not a big person, and she looked so small, compared to some of these other women in the ring. And I'm just going, like, okay, and then Liv Morgan, same thing, like, just looked so small. And I'm going, Liv, why do either you two think you have a chance? Y'all can't even look at them in the eye, like, what the hell? You're wearing wrestling boots, and stuff like that. And so we got this schmaz, and then Bianca's like, oh, I don't care about them. What about me and you? We'll have a match, we'll give the people what they want. And Becky's like, nah, and like, I'm not doing it. And she just drops her mic and walks out. And then you go to commercial.
What a heel.
Yeah.
What a heel.
Boo. Oh my God. No.
Whore.
Yeah,
whore, Becky Lynch.
Yeah, such a heel move. And so then we go to commercial, come back, and it's a 4-way elimination match.
Oh yeah.
Like, what? Okay. To see who's gonna face Becky. Like, like, at first I thought that maybe there's gonna be a tag match where it's gonna be Bianca and Liv versus Zelina and Carmella, but no, it's a straight, like, so I'm confused because they're wrestling, and I'm thinking, oh, it's a tag match, and then the next thing, oh no, wait, it's an elimination match. They, just kind of so confusing.
They did the old Sonya Deville came out during the break and made this an official 4-way number 1 contenders match.
Yeah,
sure she did. I'm sure we can ask people that were there if that really happened or not. But she just, said that to Michael Cole in his headset. Michael, tell him it's a 4-way. Anyways, back to me texting on my phone.
Right. Yeah, which we see later in the night. And so I gotta be honest with you, but I guess I don't understand it. I don't like women's 4-ways. They never seem to like have the same pop that a guy's 4-ways does. But I'm not trying to be sexist.
I like a women's 4-way. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
maybe not in a wrestling ring.
Not in a wrestling way,
but
maybe another way. But,
no, well, I don't like 4-ways in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been something I've found entertaining.
Because two people are going to roll out, and then it's going to go down to 3-way where someone's going to roll out, and there's always going to be 2 people in the ring, and you're going to have different combinations of, okay, well, this is a match I'll eventually want to see. But like, you don't ever get enough of anything. It's like you might get a minute and a half of these two going at it, and then one of them powders out, and then the next person comes in. But there's something about it when the women do it that doesn't feel as crisp or as tight as when the guys do it. I just, and like, especially when they try to throw them over the top of the rope. Like, I guess that's the thing I really struggle with. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a fan and I don't understand the idea of the 4-way. I know the 4-way is to get 4 people in there to wrestle a match, to get down to 1. And you're going to have 2 people powder out so that 2 people can wrestle and do different combinations of things to have fun for the fans. And once you go through a certain set of combinations, then we start eliminating people. But this match felt lacking, and I don't know. It's like part of it felt like Bianca was having to slow down for everybody else. Like nobody else was kind of on her level. It felt like, from my point of view, not to say that they're not all good workers, but like, I don't know. And then the other thing is, I knew she was going to win. I had no doubt in my mind that Bianca was going to win that match. So why have it? Like,
so just, the reason you have it, again, not saying that it's a good reason or whatever, but just the thought process being like, this is the clear-cut number one contender, and like these other three are kind of a joke, and this is just there to reinforce that. It's almost as if it's like a 3-on-1 handicap match, in a sense of like, can any one of these girls even steal something from this contender from one of the other ones? Like, can Carmella get a pin on Liv just to take the thing? But she can't even do that. That's how strong Bianca is, that these women pose no threat to her. I think that is the thinking of it. I don't know if that's the right business. Maybe it is for the way they've set it up, because there's nowhere else to go. They've painted themselves in a corner.
Right.
But like you said about the actual mechanics of the match, I mean, let's look at this. The person in this match has been working the longest, I believe, is Zelina Vega. Right. And not the longest doesn't always mean the most. Right. So it's like, think of all the time that she's been in the WWE, the years that she's been under contract, a good several years, however many, 3, 4, whatever, I don't know, I lost count, but not a lot of matches during that time. No. And probably sporadic working here and there, because when you're working on, she was in TNA, I believe, but when she probably did some stuff on the indies as well, but indies is like, man, what, one match a month? Right. You ain't working all the time. At best, if you're super, super, super hot and in demand, that's 4 matches a month. Right. Right. So yeah. That's basically it. So like, she's got the longest tenure as an active wrestler, but she hasn't been active that whole time. Bianca's only been doing it a couple of years, so she's good for where she's at, but she's still not good. Right. Carmella is like, she's passable. She's been in the system for a long time, and she can pretty much get whatever you need out of her, but she feels like an afterthought at this point. There's been a couple of different times where it seemed like they were going to really push Carmella, and they've done nothing with her, but she's not like, and then there's and then there's Liv, which, bless her heart. So you got no real solid veteran to steer the ship here, right? Basically. And what ends up happening, that happens a lot in these situations, because they want young, beautiful girls, and those, with the exceptions of, or the rare exceptions of, like a Toni Storm, which is like, where are you? Yeah, there aren't many young, beautiful girls that also are like double-digit year veterans. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you don't, so in these situations where you have relatively inexperienced women, that means you've got to plan this stuff down to the letter, and then you got to try to remember all that. So they have these spots, and when you're trying to remember things, it does not go as well when you're not organically reacting to things in the moment. That's what working is. I had a discussion on multiple shows, about the difference between what working means to different people. To Dave Meltzer, working means you did a lot of moves, and some were very athletic. To me, working means you didn't do anything, and the people got behind you. Like all those guys in New Japan, for example, are good workers, because all they do is wrestle. They don't get a lot of promo time. They don't have weekly TV like the same way America does. Right. But when you watch their matches, they get all their characters over in the matches. Like, oh, this, when you watch like a Taguchi or a Yano, you're like, oh, I see, these guys are like the clowns. And then you see the Suzukis, and you're like, oh, this guy's like the evil boss, yeah. the evil boss with the henchmen.
Right.
And you know what I mean? Like Okada's just the greatest who ever lived, you know, like that's, even if you don't believe he is, he believes he is. That's his character. Like, so you watch these guys and just from their matches you can tell who they are. If you watch this 4-way match, you wouldn't know the characters of any of these women. You would just see 4 women doing stuff.
Yeah, and so, I mean that's, I agree with you on that. You know, having watched New Japan, is it's almost the backstage stuff is almost, the promos are secondary to, you know, they're secondary to the characters in the ring that are being built. Those are the people that you want in, you know, your matches.
Which the promos are all gold too.
Right.
But not everybody's going to sit there and watch all those, but like those really help fill out the characters. But even if you didn't watch those, which a lot of people don't, I'm sure, even if you didn't and you just, you got to, right?
Yeah.
But when you don't watch those, you still get the characters across because that's what working is. So the WWE is too overly, and it's not always their fault. Sometimes there aren't many guys left who can work, especially when you come up through the system. Even if you know how to work, they still want you to just have this TV match. It's got to be this. Part of it is because they want to be able to get it, you know, production wise. They want to know if you're going to do this move, the camera needs to be here. They need to know some of those things ahead of time. I guess that's what they've said. I don't know how much that's true because I see them miss shit all the fucking time.
Right.
So you know, but yeah. But just to wrap, you know, put a bow on this match, that's what you saw, John. You saw 4 women who are trying to remember the match they planned. They spent all day planning, and it's fine enough. But all that anybody's going to remember is who won, because that's what carries us forward. So Bianca wins as we expect. And that's the match we would want to see. We want to see if she can, get her comeuppance on Becky, who's holding her title.
Right. Gotcha. You know, and so that's that. Let's be honest. That was the women's match. It was an interesting way to start the show.
It's also one of those which I like. I've dubbed the hit everyone's music segments.
Right. Yeah.
Which I'm never a fan of. It just so phony. It's just there. It's like, oh, look, here's somebody. We want you guys to pop now. Oh, here's somebody else pop again. Here's somebody else pop again. It's like, just you want people to cheer because these people exist. Like, just for existing, you want them to get a pop.
Right.
So I never liked that. But that's what this was.
Okay. You know, and that's, to me, that's what it was as well. I mean, we see Paul Heyman backstage after this, and Caleb Braxton, she asked him about Brock Lesnar, where he stands, and he's going to be with Roman Reigns, and he's got to go help prepare, but he can't get into Roman's locker room because the door is locked. So we're seeing some of this. Is there trust issues or whatever about there? And I think it was, we also see really interestingly, NXT around 7:30, say coming soon on Instagram. They released the We Are NXT with the new logo on the 27th, which is, I don't know. That's a lot. That's a lot for me. Going on is there. So we come back from commercial, and
I want to say like right at that spot where basically it's like Paul Heyman tries to get in and he's locked out.
Yeah.
And then he does, and then they go to break or whatever.
Right.
And I think that's the moment they should have panned back to Kayla with the mic, like, got anything to say?
Right.
And I just like, when they went to commercial, I thought they were done with it. I'm glad they went back to it.
Right. Yeah. Because that's what happens when they come back, is they come back with Kayla still with Heyman. He's like, you have nothing better to do, or to stalk her or harass. Nope, and she looks at him, smiles, and shakes her head like nothing. And then the Usos come out, and she goes away, and they didn't know he was out there the entire time, and Roman's not there yet. And they ask him if he knew Brock was going to be at SummerSlam, and tell them no. And so we just see this thing where the Usos are kind of, maybe building tension between them and the tribal chief, and all this kind of stuff between him and Paul Heyman. And it's very interesting because that's a theme. Anytime you go out through the rest of the night, you're going to see come up. And I mean, even at the end of the night when they come out, you don't see Paul Heyman looking at Roman the same way. You know, it's very interesting and unique to watch that. You know, so
which makes it a question of, is Paul Heyman nervous because he knows something that Roman doesn't know, or is he nervous because he is innocent and Roman doesn't think he is, and he's just waiting for the hammer to come down?
He's waiting.
Either one, interesting and intriguing. Right?
It really is. It kind of makes me go, okay, I'm interested in this. Right. Once again, they've done such great jobs with this Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, Usos, bloodline storyline. I mean, it's on such a different level the storytelling wise that some of these other places have been with some of these other stories, which we go to Cesaro versus Chad Gable with Otis. I
want to add one little thing too. Like, if you notice in any segment that Paul Heyman is involved in, whether it's that he's actually there or it's just something to do with Roman or the Usos or something, in those moments, in those backstage little vignettes, segments, whatever, when you they're asking the questions that people are thinking. Like that's the Usos bring it right up. Hey, what did you know? They're actually asking a question that people are thinking. That is absent from the entire rest of the show.
Yep.
You go see everybody else's backstage stuff, everybody else's stuff. We've got 100 questions. They're ignoring all of them. They're just doing whatever they want to do. They're in their own world. And that just shows you what the power of being a top guy and having stroke is.
Right.
Because you get to say, I'm not going to do the stupid shit. I want to, this is what I would say if I was in this situation. So
right. Which again makes it good. That's what makes it good. That's what makes people want to watch, So Cesaro and Chad Gable versus Chad Gable with Otis out there. Of course, we know if Otis is going to be out there that he's going to interfere. So Cesaro starts knocking Gable around. Gable gets a little bit back to it, but then Otis comes in and calls for the bell, and then Gable and Otis start beating up on Cesaro. Give him the clothesline with the suplex, and then Otis jumps off the ropes and smashes Cesaro, and there it is, and so honestly, I don't know. I'm wanting to see Chad and Otis back in tag team matches, but they haven't done that. So what's the purpose? It doesn't do anything for me to see them do this, because I know this is what's happening now. If they wrestle singles matches, it's not going to be a straight up match. Someone's going to interfere. Otis is going to come in, smash them up. Why are we not getting them in tag team matches? What's the deal? We know that later on we have a tag team match. We know later on, other people appear to take on the tag team champions. Why are we not seeing these two in tag team matches to help this division out?
Well, geez, that's one of those questions we were just talking about that the fans are asking that they're completely ignoring.
Exactly.
Why would the tag team not be in tag team matches? In their brain, I'm just going to try to answer that just for entertainment purposes for our listeners. But they're just thinking, oh, that's good heat on Otis because he's not actually in the matches, but he's hurting people and costing, you know what I mean? That.
Yeah.
This unceremonious return of Cesaro, who hasn't been around, by the way,
right?
They just throw him out. Here's Cesaro. Not hey guys, Cesaro's back. Coming, it's just here he is. Here's Cesaro. Like he was just there last week, or it was just on SummerSlam. We're tired of Cesaro, but here he is again.
Right.
No, it's not like that. We haven't seen him in a minute, but we'll throw him in there with this. Now, this is a good example of how, when I talked about people being miscast. And the wrong-headedness and the contradictions of what they say as a company to try to defend the decisions that they make. So I'm sure you didn't watch Monday Night Raw because you're a rational human being and you love yourself enough and you're a mental health advocate. Yes, so I'm sure you didn't watch it, but I'm also sure that you saw pictures of Karrion Kross and what the fuck he was dressed like from
because of Big Ray. Because of Big Ray.
Sure.
I was like, oh my God, why? What is, oh my God. Are they doing a BDS thing? What do they call that? BDSM thing with him now or something?
No, they think he's like a gladiator. It's his own fault. He did it to himself because he was wearing, he used to just wear regular trunks. And then he started wearing that little loincloth flap,
Okay. Yeah.
To kind of be like a little extra warrior, I guess. I don't know what else,
Right.
the kind of a, a throwback to those gladiator type or
Right.
barbarian Conan, whatever the case may be, that you wear a loincloth. But so he started doing that, and that probably triggered something in somebody's mind, like, let's go full, Lord Humongous, whatever, with a crocodile skin or whatever. It doesn't work. But the point is, they tried to justify that by saying every character that we have in this company needs to be marketable. We need something that we can sell as toys or whatever, just like it has to be presented and marketable as a certain way, right? That's their justification for dressing him up like, let's face it, a penis.
Right.
Now let's go back to Otis for a second.
Okay.
Let's tie this into Otis. Now, if you remember, all of the, like, talking about cramming stuff down our throats, we had the Otis and Mandy stuff, which a lot of people liked because they don't know any better and they have no taste. But a lot of people, like, that they did that for a long time, and it was to get Otis as a likable character, to get some sympathy for Otis, and make him a better baby face, or whatever their justification was. We know the real justification was somebody probably propositioned Mandy Rose. She probably turned him down. They probably said, let's put her in an angle with the fattest, grossest guy and make them be in love. And it backfired on them because Mandy and Otis are friends, and they knew exactly what they're doing, and they're professionals, and they went along with it, and they played everything up to the best of their abilities. So it wasn't fun for the people that were trying to ruin their lives anymore. So they
got that shit over. They got that shit over too. Let's be honest. I mean,
and the best way to get cut off is to get something over. So if you get something over, they're like, well, shit, this isn't what I wanted. I wanted them to be miserable. They seem to be loving it. All right. You know what? Fuck you. You don't even get the money in the bank briefcase that you won yourself.
Right.
But that's what he turned it into a lunchbox. That's not marketable. You can't sell Otis toys with a little money in the bank. Lunchbox comes in there. He can't carry it on the WWE 2K video games. Like, you can't do a million things with Otis as a baby face that people just genuinely, they look at him and they're like, well, I like this guy. He's got something to him. He's got a certain charisma to him. No, let's take all that away. Let's shave him, cut his hair. Let's just have him have no personality. That's what they want to do. Rather than make the money with Otis that they should be making. Not that it's going to be like, he's not going to be the next Stone Cold, but it's certainly much more marketable. So don't throw the word marketable when you're trying to excuse your ribs on carrying a cross, and then look at Otis and you took away all his marketability.
Right.
Now what are you going to say? Like, if someone just turned on SmackDown last night and never seen any Otis before, what are they going to think? How are they going to describe that guy? They're just going to say, well, he's the fat guy, but what about his personality? Oh, I don't know. He didn't do anything. He just beat somebody up, but every wrestler does that. So I don't know what, you know what I mean? So that's a hypocrisy that I can point out right there, just using those two examples of something recent of how they talk out both sides of their mouths, and they're not doing good business for themselves. We get that you're making billions of dollars in rights fees, but why do you not want to add more millions on top of that? Like, why, since when has people been afraid to make more money? I thought that's kind of the point, but that is what we're seeing here. There's no real reason for them not to be in tag team matches or whatever, especially if the Street Profits are contenders. We've been seeing like singles matches between them, like you said, probably because Montez was injured or something. So I can understand that aspect of it, but nonetheless, to put a bow on this, this really didn't do anything for anybody. But it's a perfect example of how you have an obvious casting choice, and spitefully they put him in the complete opposite slot that he should be in.
Yeah, and like you said, we're seeing that more and more with him, which is that a punishment?
Yes.
I mean, are they doing it as a punishment to these guys? So I mean,
yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
It's not a rhetorical question. There's an answer, and
yes.
the answer is yes.
Yes. Yeah. All right, so then we see Kayla Braxton outside. She says Roman's expected to arrive, and Baron Corbin shows up in a Bentley in a suit and call him Happy Corbin. Dude,
fuck off.
This thing
Happy
was
Corbin. Fuck off.
This was so fucking stupid. Like, I mean, I preferred the sad Corbin over this. This was just and
now we are sad Corbin.
Now we are.
And we just were talking about how good an angle on this show can be.
Yeah.
And it has to share time with this.
Yeah.
Which it actually stains whatever Roman and Paul are doing because it's associated with this.
Exactly. And my problem was the sad Corbin thing was great, but he actually won money in Vegas and posted on Instagram. So now they've got to do something different because he posted on Instagram. Like, he legit won money in Vegas, and like, I think like one of the casinos posted about it, and so he posted about it. So now it kind of feels like, oh well, we need to do this now. We need to transition him to this guy that he went to Vegas and he won all this money. He's got a $3,000 suit, $50,000 whatever, and a Bentley, and his wife came home and they had wagyu beef, and he goes,
I wonder what his wife was thinking of the pictures of him with those hoes that he was with when he was winning the money in Vegas. Like, did she not see those? Did she not? I guess she doesn't follow his social media. I don't blame her. I don't either. I'm sure you don't, but I don't. So like, I get his wife not wanting to follow him, and maybe she couldn't have seen that, but now that this episode has aired, he'll have to explain those hoes that he was with.
Because I saw it this week because it was everywhere. People are like, Baron Corbin wins big in Vegas, like he legit won, and so and it shows what he did, and he tries to buy the Money in the Bank contract from Big E,
it's okay, John, if you don't want to dignify this entire thing with a response.
Can we skip it? I'm gonna skip it.
Yes, let's go. Edge came out, like,
Edge
video.
Edge
mailed in video.
He had a mailed in video. So did Seth Rollins, talking about their match and how they're both moving on to the Universal Championship, which they're both moving on to the Universal Championship. So that means that at some point they're going to cross paths again, right?
They better have a match to find out who gets to be at the Universal.
Again, it's like, oh my God. Like, they said some of the same things, and it's like, oh, I'm going to move forward to the Universal. I'm moving over to Europe. Well, fuck, y'all are gonna have to fight again to see who gets the Universal Championship. But
Sonya Deville is furiously texting. Right as we speak. Right?
Yeah, and God, this was just whatever. And so Roman shows up backstage. He goes to this door, and Heyman's standing there. Roman's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He's like, and he doesn't have anything to say, and he's like, "What? Am I having to open my own doors now?" And Heyman apologizes, opens the door. And Roman says, "You want to come in?" He says, "Yes." And so they go in again, just kind of
my tribal chief.
Yeah, my tribal chief. Again, just showing, but still, there was I love the look of the thing that does this for me is not just the verbiage; it's the facials that these guys do. Really, that is selling everything. The Usos, when they came out, the looks that they had that kind of smiling, but like, I'm gonna kick your ass kind of look, kind of thing. Roman comes out and he's just that stone-faced guy. You don't know what's happening, and oh my God, what is he gonna do? And I'm supposed to open my own doors now. I mean, and Paul Heyman just has this bewildered look on his face of like, I don't know what's gonna happen right now. I'm about to get punched in the face, or what do I do? It's not just the words, it's the way they do it and sell it and the way they act it. Man, it is so good. They do such a good job with it. I love
right after Happy Corbin and everything.
And the mail-in video.
One thing I noticed here was, so before all this happened, Shinsuke and Boogs came out.
Did they come out?
They came out. And the reason I know this though is because there were on my DVR thing, there was 9 minutes of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
And when Roman came back after break, I thought I fast forwarded the DVR too far. Because if you have a DVR, you know how it is where they try to throw monkey wrenches into your recording so that it'll either make you skip stuff too fast, right, or whatever. There's different channels do it different ways, and some don't do it at all. But sometimes they'll try to mess with you so that you have to watch the commercial. So I just assumed that it skipped over a whole chunk of the match, but it turns out no, they just had weird 9 minutes of commercials there on that broadcast. So once Roman was done, then they went to the match already in the ring.
Right.
So I was like, it was actually the Dirty Dogs coming out.
Because they had to come out and they had Shinsuke and Boogs got their thing. And then I think it was like a really long commercial break. And then Roman, they come back to Roman and them. And then, then the Dirty Dogs come out and make their entrance. And we go into this match. Yeah, the timing of this was very weird and just off. And I'm going, okay. So like I did when Shinsuke and Boogs first came out, I'm thinking, okay, so are they having a match? Are they celebrating? Because Boogs is in his gear. So I'm figuring he's wrestling, because he was in the gear he was in last week. And then, I love that Ziggler now is doing the whole Hogan ripping the shirt off as he gets into the ring, kind of thing. Now he just he doesn't care anymore. He's making his money and he's just doing what he wants to do. Again, we see this is one where you have an established tag team versus the Intercontinental Champion and his lackey, who are thrown together. And they end up winning. Boogs.
The lackey wins.
The lackey. It's 2 weeks in a row. The lackey wins. I can't even understand this. Like, again, if you're trying to establish this tag team division, you've got Otis and Gable who aren't wrestling in tag matches, and now you've got the Dirty Dogs wrestling a champ and his lackey and losing to the lackey. What's happening right now? Do they not care about tag team wrestling? Has that gone out the window?
Yeah, it's been out the window. We don't care about tag team wrestling. Never have. They have the opposite problem with the tag teams on SmackDown than they do with the women.
Yeah,
where they got too many tag teams, so they're like not focusing on that. Whereas the women don't have enough, and you have to you put your whole division in one 4-way.
Right.
Yeah, but they don't care. They've never cared. The tag team wrestling is an afterthought. There's lots of tag team matches, but that's just to get more, people on TV. It's not really so much because they care about the actual matches. And you would think of all the, even though it doesn't make sense, you would think of all for this match to happen, you would think that, Boogs could do a job here because no one's going to think he's, it's important for him to win, and it would be totally understandable if he did. It would give the Dirty Dogs some heat. And so if they did want to go towards something else, or if one of them wanted to challenge for the Intercontinental Champion, it'd be kind of like, there you go.
Right.
That creates some doubt in people's minds, but
because last week
instead he just beats Dolph Ziggler.
Right. Last week, at least he beat Commander Aziz and Apollo Crews, who were not an established tag team either. You got champion lackey versus champion lackey type thing, Boston lackey type thing. So that makes sense. I get that. I was fine with him going over Apollo Crews because he's on a downward spiral from losing the title. That makes sense to me. This week's did not make sense at all. And then of course, you get Rey Mysterio telling, later, again, another tag team that looks like is no longer a tag team because they're wrestling singles matches, and you're gonna go do this by yourself. I need to step back, and all this, stuff. So again, SmackDown has a really good tag division. Otis and Gable are good. The Street Profits are one of my favorites. The Dirty Dogs are great. Mysterio and them are great, and then you got the Usos back now. That is a pretty good tag division if you let them fucking have a tag match. How about we let them have a tag match and figure out who's going to be in contention for this tag titles instead of just letting all this stupid shit out. This is where I get frustrated as a fan. I like tag team wrestling. It's fun. It's a change of pace. It's different. And some of these especially with SmackDown, some of these tag teams are really, really good, and I want to watch them. And I'm not getting that, and it just pisses me off because I like this division on this program, on this brand. And I want to see what they can do. And I'm tired of this, second citizen. Oh, well, we're going to do this or that or whatever. And just kind of whatever. Oh, let's just do a singles match with them tonight. Or let's put them in with somebody else who's not a tag team, but we're going to let them win. It frustrates me as a fan because that's not what I came here to see. I came here to see good wrestling. And I want to see my tag teams wrestle my tag teams. I want to see my singles wrestle my singles. and I want to see the stories that are told from that. That's what I want to see. And to see all this tonight, it drove me up the wall. That I got nothing for any kind of tag team action tonight. The one tag team actions I get, our tag team that used to be champs loses to a team that's not even a team. That's not going to be a team because one of them is the freaking Intercontinental Champion.
Now wait a minute, John. You're just assuming that this is not the new hottest tag team on the block. I mean, now that Boog's proved he can get a win over a former world heavyweight champion, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't challenge the Usos for the tag team championship. I mean, I find it very interesting that you're choosing to cut this promo about tag teams in the one tag team match that we got on the show. I mean, this was the tag team wrestling you came to see. And now I feel like you're just a little ungrateful, if I'm being honest, but that's okay. That's all right. I understand the frustration. You're just mad because you thought about Happy Corbin again for a second.
I did, yeah.
I will say during this match also as well, you mentioned him. Apollo got an insert promo.
Oh, that's right.
It may have been during the entrance of the Dirty Dogs, but
yeah.
He said some things in it, and I'll just say in response, like, look, Apollo, your ancestors may be screaming, but it's not anything to do with what Shinsuke Nakamura is doing, bro. It has nothing to do with that. Trust me, they're fine with him. It's you, I think, that is causing your legacy of Nigerian royalty to be disgraced from beyond. They're rolling over in their grave.
Yeah, that made me very uncomfortable when he said that. I was like,
Yeah, sometimes when people hand you something, you just got to say no. Like, look, I'll say all this, but I'm not saying this part. Just, have a set. What are they going to do? Release you? Just go to AEW.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're taking everybody. Yeah. Just about. Apparently, they're going to take Buddy Murphy here in the next couple of weeks. Apparently, they're going to take.
Yeah, Dark Elevation needs more people.
Yeah, Ruby Riott, I think it's going to be coming, supposedly. I don't know.
Good for them.
All right. Yeah. So, all right. So next, after we have this match, which we said wins, Boogs wins, gets the pin for this one. We have Dominic. We have a commercial break, and then we come back to Ray. Well, before we go to commercial, we have Ray and Dominic. Oh no! Sorry. Before that, we have Naomi. Randomly makes an appearance.
I remember Naomi.
Yeah, I remember her. Oh yeah, she's the glow chick, right? And she's talking with Stanya and says, "Oh hey, I didn't know you had a match. I didn't even know you were coming back to Smackdown." And says, I don't have a match for you. Maybe next week we'll talk about it. And just kind of dismisses her, which is pretty much what WWE has done for Naomi her entire career. They just kind of put it on the TV screen of, oh yeah, by the way, you're still here? Cool. No, we didn't think about a match for you. We're just, maybe next week we'll talk about it. Your
husband got the DUI, but
you're getting the shaft.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This is all Naomi's fault because she should know by now. You don't ask for a match. You just go out and make your own match in the ring like everybody else, right?
Yeah, apparently.
So she made a mistake asking for one directly from the general manager figure. She should have just went out to the ring with a microphone, unannounced, unadvertised, and got a match probably right there on the spot. She could have had one.
Right.
If she had done that, but she just doesn't know how things are done after all these years. And what can you say? Like, it's just never going to change if you don't get with the program.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get Ray and Dominic talking about how he's going to let Dominic fly on his own, but always have his back. And, see Dominic's kind of confused. And he said he spoke to Adam Pearce and got a match tonight. He doesn't know who his opponent is, but he knows he'd get the win. And
it could have been Naomi, but she just didn't make that move. She did not make that move. She was not proactive. And
dang it, Naomi missed it by that much. So then you got Dominic versus Sami Zayn, who, again, another person, been gone for a while, comes back.
It was 3 question marks before we knew it was Sami Zayn. His opponent was 3 question marks.
It was 3 question marks, and then he comes back out. You could tell Sammy is the boss in the ring in this match. Easily. There were just a couple of times where Sammy had to wait for Dominic or had to do something, just to kind of carry Dominic along. And I felt like there was a couple of times just from a fan perspective that Sammy had to do something to help Dominic out. It wasn't necessarily that they were having good flow, that Sammy had to make some adjustments or do some things to help Dominic out, which is understandable because Dominic, and they even mentioned it, he's only been in the ring for a year. You know, I mean, he hasn't had NXT. He hasn't had anything other than that. I know he trained at Landstorm's Academy. I know Dominic, I mean, Ray's done some stuff with Dominic, but, you know, that's different than being out, you know, in the live crowd. I mean, he's been in the Thunderdome for the last year. You know, I mean, he hasn't even experienced live crowds or anything along those lines. So I'm not looking at this saying, oh, well, Dominic's the shits. You know, I mean, I get where he's coming from, and he's being pushed as a legacy wrestler. So there is that aspect of it. But I could just see where Sami Zayn had to really put in some work to help him out in this match. And, you know, Sami gets the win. At some point, Ray comes back out, you know, even though he was going to let him do his own thing. Ray comes back out, you know, I'm like, okay, well, why? You know, because I think it was right before the commercial break. And like, I think he was it Dominic goes for a 619 and Sami moves. And so Dominic goes, falls to the outside, and then Ray comes back out, you know, and then the next thing you know, he's there the whole time. And Sami gets a win with a haluva kick and gets the pin. It is very interesting, you know, because after the match, you know, Ray gets in there, but Dominic has this, like, you know, kind of leave me alone, dad kind of, you know, vibe going to it. Do you think this is the start of them trying to break them up, and they're going to be a father-son match between the two? You think this is starting to set the grounds for that? Or do you think that's just, hey, you said I was going to be alone, and then you came out, you know, kind of aspect of it? Or
well, wouldn't that be the first step on that path?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I'm sure that's what they want to do. I really don't know that they ever need to do it. Neither one of these guys is going to be a effective heel. So, and normally you could do something like this without turning somebody heel if you're creative enough, but we know that they're not. So they're just going to do what they always do, which is turn somebody.
Right.
And like we've talked about with people being miscast in their characters, that's, you know, either one of these guys as a heel, totally wrong.
Right.
Even Sami Zayn as a heel, even though he's good, like Sami Zayn is a very good heel, right? Wrong for him. Wrong thing for Sami. Sami needs to be a, you know, the very bottom of the top tier guys, like the guy that everybody wants to see beat Roman Reigns, and they think he might just have a chance, but he probably won't. Right. That's Sami Zayn's eternal role, right? Doesn't matter how good he is as a heel, that doesn't mean that's what he should be doing, right?
Right.
Can't make Dominic a heel for any reason, which is what they're going to try to do, I guess. But here's the deal. Like, the thing you made an interesting point about the crowds and him not having any people to work in front of. Well, let me tell you, John, in today's wrestling, that doesn't matter nearly as much because of what I was saying about being a worker and going out there and executing your pre-planned match. Dominic knows how to do the moves because he traveled to all those wrestling schools when his dad was taking him everywhere, like Landstorm School, and he went to several others to learn things from different people. It was almost like a mini, like, you know, it's a close, not like working the territories, but just or even in terms of the performance center, you have lots of different coaches you can learn different things from.
Right.
I guess that's what Ray wanted to do. He wanted to take him everywhere except WWE and then go to WWE. So Dominic has to do this match that he had, you know, worked out in the day with Sami Zayn earlier. You would do that the exact same whether there were people there or not, because you're not changing anything you're doing based on the reactions of the people. Like, we're a long way away from those days. I think there's a very small handful of people who could even pull that off that are even alive and active anymore that can do a match that way. So using the empty arenas as an excuse doesn't really work for me. Not saying that like you're using it as an excuse, but we've heard that, right? Like we've heard people say that, like, well, we don't even have crowds. And it's like, well, what are you talking about? You just go through all your motions anyway. You don't change it based on what the people are doing, you know? So I've rarely seen people not into a match and then the guys do something different and get them back. That doesn't happen anymore.
So you're not I guess I see that because I go to a lot more independent shows. Like there have been, when I go to independent shows, there have been times where there's two guys on the card that I don't know. I don't know who they are, and I've never seen them wrestle before. And so I kind of start off going, okay, and give it a shot and watch. And every now and then I'll do something like, oh, let me get my phone and tweet a picture or whatever at the show. Then they do something like, oh, holy shit, okay, I'm in. All right, that was cool. Let me watch this and see what they're doing. And they start building character, and they're with the moves and the things that they're doing. And then by the time, I've seen it many times where I've been in on the match because the guys who I didn't know at first got me into it because of some of the stuff they were doing and the story they were telling in the match. And I'm going, oh, okay, who is this guy? I want to follow this guy now. I'm interested in him as a wrestler and see his career and stuff like that. So I've seen that, and being as a crowd member and having knowing guys who are wrestling, the difference it tells them they make, because they're listening to the crowd so they can do what they need to do to keep them going or involved, or making sure they're not losing the crowd. Talking to some of these guys about how that works for them. I guess that's where I feel like it would make a difference for Dominic. But again, like you said, it's WWE views work rate different than everybody else.
The difference for Dominic will just be like feeling that amount of eyes on him and being able to hear direct feedback, like, you suck, kid, rather than nothing. Right. So that is really the only difference, but it's not going to affect his match too much. It's just going to affect how he, how his feelings are. But
gotcha. Okay.
But another interesting thing, just as a side observation, not really tie into anything, but watching Dominic is awkward, besides all the reasons that you said, or the things that you said, but also because he does things differently, from a different handedness, I guess. I don't know if he's right or left-handed, but he throws a left-footed drop kick, and he does a left-handed 619. If you notice, his dad goes around, he goes more counterclockwise, and Dominic goes clockwise. So it just looks weird and different when he's doing some of the stuff. That doesn't really matter, but it's just something I noticed. But yeah, like you said, Sami Zayn is, he's the architect of this, and it was fine. This was one of the good, top to bottom matches where everything was perfect. I was sure they were gonna have Dominic roll Sami Zayn up or some stupid shit like that. Yeah. I just thought, even with the whole dad thing, I just assumed they were going to put him over Sami Zayn, but this was actually perfect. It basically felt like he was almost no challenge for Sami Zayn.
Right.
And Sami Zayn, another guy, just unceremoniously back from wherever he was, here's Sami Zayn.
Yeah, by the way, it's Sami Zayn. And we're like, oh, yeah, where have you been? Kind of thing.
But yeah.
Which is very funny because the commentary in this, of course, Kevin Owens is on the table, in commentary all night wearing a t-shirt with a tie. And
great.
He's like, he's like, oh, he should have talked to me. I could have told him what Sami was going to do here. Which is very interesting, if you stop with it, because yes, Kevin Owens and Sami have had matches for ever, and every match you watch between those two, you want to watch. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if they're the same or not. They do a great job with those matches. And it was very interesting to watch Kevin be almost the Tony Romo of this match, because he's like, Sami's going to do this. And, I've seen Sami do that 100 times, that kind of thing. So I found it very interesting from that aspect of, one, that they gave Sami the win after being into the ether of nowhere for the last few weeks. And then two, Kevin Owens is kind of selling in of the match as an announcer, in almost that Tony Romo-esque way of, he wasn't overly excited like Tony Romo gets, but just like, oh yeah, Sami's probably going to set up for this, or he'll do this. And, Dominic should have talked to me about this. I would have told him this, kind of thing. And so I found that interesting. It made the match a little more watchable from that aspect.
Sure.
And then,
look at Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are, besides their own intertwining, but those guys are just, they throw out chicken salad and lemonade like the New Day throws out pancakes. They just, everything they do, they're absolutely trying their best to make it palatable. And whether this succeeds or not is usually never it's completely dependent on them. It's like,
Right.
how bad is this material that they're trying to get over, and can they do that?
Yeah.
And so here, everything worked out just good. Kevin Owens fine on commentary all night. Just
Yeah.
you always like Kevin Owens. He's very
But you had to wonder if
quick-witted
something was going to
funny.
happen. I had to wonder if something, like, part of the reason why I stayed on this match was because is something going to happen between Sammy and Kevin? Because there's always that history. I don't
too
care.
obvious if he just was out there for that spot, but since he was out there the whole night, you can see like, it makes sense if they don't here, because he's got to stay on for the rest of it.
Right.
Allegedly anyway. But
right, but I mean, that was one of those things of like, I could see WWE saying, okay, yeah, let's, maybe something happens after the match, or maybe in the middle, like Sammy goes, oh hey, by the way, Kevin, fuck you, something along those lines. Even if it was just something like that, I'm wanting to see that. We don't get that, but still, I enjoyed it. It was a good match. It made me appreciate Sami Zayn even that much more. I mean, really, at the end of the day. So then,
and on the other hand, you got Dominic, which bless the kid. But he looks like he should have a backpack and a sack lunch.
Yeah,
like he just is not, like, he's not a man.
Mm-mm.
And even though he's legally a man, he's like 23 or something. It's just he looks so like a child in there.
He does,
and it's hard to. I don't know. It's really hard to buy him in this role, other than if they're going to do like this, where he basically just gets beat every time, which that's what would happen. That's what, and that's what should happen. But he's already tasted more success than somebody in his position should have at this point.
Right.
And now it's like, well, why do I care about this kid? He's already been the fucking tag team champion. So it's like, where do you go but down from here?
Right.
You're not going to be, no one's ever going to see Dominic, and he's not going to be the Universal Champion or something like that. I don't want to say never, because they really are, WWE sees no signs of stopping, and they really are that bad. But it would just be, it would cause the people to turn on him even more than they would if he were an actual heel.
Right. Yeah.
So.
No, that makes sense. That makes total sense. So, all right. So I guess we got to talk about the end of the show, which is Roman and Heyman and the Usos coming out right before we see the Usos and everybody, they're just jumping around.
He walked out at like an hour and 48 into the show. So I was thinking after the entrance, we probably got a good maybe 5 minutes to celebrate. Let's do the celebration. We'll see what we do.
Yeah, we'll see what we do. So he goes to hand him his Universal Championship, and Roman's confused, and Hellman is a family celebration. Roman tells him he is family and that he loves him. Again, is this a mind game Roman is playing? Kind of thing. I love it. It's just like, you family, I love you. Come on out. And so then, and this is where I appreciate Paul Heyman so much more, because even though Roman has said that to him as they're walking out and he's holding the title for Roman, he has this look of not the puppy love that he's had for the entire last few months that he's had. It's more of, I'm scared of this man a little bit now. He has
like, more of the puppy that stole food off the table and doesn't know if you noticed it yet.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, he's just walking timidly. He's just kind of got that look of like, is he going to hit me? What's going on? Because Paul Heyman's been around. If you've been around wrestling celebrations turn into smages or things that happen. So surely something's going to happen to him at this moment right now. So, and so, but Paul Heyman does his thing about, he introduces the Usos, and he says he gives the tribal chief has granted them permission to acknowledge Roman Reigns as the fans boo.
Oh, and here too, with this promo that he's doing, all the physical acting that you were talking about that he's doing with the looks and the body language and everything, not doing that here. Full confident Paul Heyman when he's delivering the promo, when he's doing his job.
Yeah.
And that is the genius move, because a stupid person would have said he should be like nervous, looking side to side and stuttering while he's talking and all this other stuff. No, he shouldn't do that. He did it exactly right.
Exactly.
Full character. okay, you know, at this point you may believe that he's just accepted that Roman Reigns is not going to turn on him or whatever, but either way he's completely professional in his job.
Right. And I mean, that's the whole point. You know, Roman Reigns, tells him something and says it's their special night because they're going to have the opportunity to acknowledge the Usos as, tag team champions of the world. And then Roman says something again, and Heyman says it's part of the show where they have clearly seen nod of John, all thanks to the beating of SummerSlam.
Seen enough.
Seen enough. Yeah, whatever, how he said it. I was just trying to remember it, how it was written, and then delivered by the fact that Cena was beaten by the undisputed Universal Champ Roman Reigns. And then, of course, Finn Balor's music comes out, because, of course, it's a celebration. So someone has to interrupt. Wrestling.
Might as well be another guy that we haven't seen since the last time we saw Sami Zayn and Cesaro and Sasha Banks. And everybody else has been
apparently
missing in action.
John Cena beats the shit out of people so hard that they'll have to out 3 weeks after stealing their title shot from the contract and go about that way. But yeah, so Finn Balor comes out and he got screwed of the match by John Cena, but he didn't forget about Cena, and Edge is talking about coming, and Brock is back, but he wants to come out and challenge him in Extreme Rules. He says, but seeing as how he doesn't trust anybody out here, he's not waiting in line, and then he just starts going after Roman. And then the Usos start breaking up, and the Street Profits come in, and there's the whole schmoz at the end. Finn, it ends with Finn doing coup de grace on the red hair is Jay, right?
I don't know.
I don't either. I don't either. I can't ever keep track anymore.
I can tell them apart when I can see them. I know who they are, but I don't remember who their fake names are, because Jay and Jimmy are not their real names. Like, one of them's named John, for God's sake.
Right.
That's Naomi's husband. That's the alcoholic.
Right.
John is the alcoholic, but I don't remember if John is Jimmy or Jay. So fucked up. God,
yeah, I know. It's such a mess. It is such a mess.
But the important thing is Finn Balor stepped on him, whoever.
Right. Yeah. He coup de grace him, and and then was standing at the ropes, and Roman is looking back from behind his shoulder while Paul Heyman has the title, walking back, and stops and just kind of looks back his shoulder, and then that's how they go off the show. So end of the night, how did this feel for you? End of the night here, Vet. What do you think?
In a way, not for me, but maybe for the fans, maybe this kind of saved it, because I really didn't think very highly of this episode at all.
I didn't.
It really was bad, and I'll get into that in a minute. But just to address the last couple things about the main event, what I was saying earlier about how you see guys answering questions in Paul Heyman related segments. So Finn Balor comes out, and like you mentioned, he said, I haven't forgot about John Cena. I'll deal with that later. Like, I feel as if he was in an angle with somebody else on a different part of the show, they would not have brought that up at all.
Right.
But because it's related to Paul Heyman, he's making sure that the questions get answered and addressed, because us as fans is like, hey, it's John Cena stole, we're thinking John Cena stole this thing from you. What do you think about that? And we find out, he doesn't think too good about that at all. He wants to whip John Cena's ass too.
Right.
Like, he wasn't cool with that. He's not just going to stay cool with that. No water under the bridge for Finn. So I like that little detail. And it once again proves the point of how, if Paul Heyman is involved somehow, I'm not saying necessarily crediting Paul Heyman, even though he probably deserves a lot of the credit, if not all the credit. Yeah. I just don't know what goes on there, but I'm just saying coincidentally, in all these things he's involved in, people are doing the detailed work that should be applied across the board for everyone. Right. So in that sense, I like that they gave the fans one more, nice little surprise of a returning person, I guess. And it made logical sense, because of course he would come back and interrupt this. He never got what he was originally supposed to get. And that gives us somewhere for this to go moving forward. So It wrapped it up nicely. I'm always happy to see Finn Balor out there doing stuff. So like, in that sense, it works for me, but just overall in general, I thought this episode was a mess. And this is how I'm going to tie it back. Cause I gave a little tease earlier about how I would tie this back to SummerSlam when we were all
Sure.
said and done talking about it. So if you missed SummerSlam like completely, and let's just say you went to work and people were telling you, oh yeah, John Cena was there and Goldberg was there, and we had Becky Lynch come back, and like if they're just telling you the stuff that happened to SummerSlam, and you're like, damn, missed SummerSlam, that sounds like something I would have wanted to watch. Well, what's up next? SmackDown, right? Brock Lesnar. So if you miss SummerSlam, what would this show do to make you regret missing shows in the future?
Sure.
You're almost being punished for tuning in to see what you would have missed on SummerSlam, or to see the continuation of things that were on SummerSlam or related to SummerSlam. If you wanted to see Brock Lesnar, he ain't here. Sorry.
Yeah. And they didn't do anything to dissuade that either. I mean, throughout the week, hey, Brock Lesnar's back, they were doing that kind of stuff. And, of course, he came out at the end of the SmackDown Roman Reigns, John Cena match. So all that inference, because you're looking at this and some people talking about this, is that the inference was that Brock was going to be there. Brock's going to show up. But then again,
we know he won't, because we know Brock.
Yeah, me being the rational person goes, no, this is Brock fucking Lesnar. He's not going to show up unless you have a check for him right there, and it's enough to get him off of his farm in, Canada or whatever, to stop him from butchering cows.
Which they could have done if they really wanted to. If they wanted to follow up on SummerSlam and whatever buzz they created, give Brock Lesnar a check, make it happen, so that at least if somebody tunes in on the SmackDown right after SummerSlam that they missed, remember, this is a theoretical group of fans that might have been interested, but are looking for a reason to get back into it, right? Okay. Yeah. The fan on the street too, like not necessarily like doesn't know all the things about Brock Lesnar hating people, just knows that he came back at SummerSlam. Yeah. Right? You got zero Brock. You got Becky at the very top of the show and zero Becky for the entire rest of the show. Don't tell me she wasn't there. She had to be there. You don't just do your thing and then go home.
She was pumping in the back. That's why we didn't see it.
Yeah, well,
she was breast pumping in the back.
And Seth was helping. So, but nonetheless, we didn't even get footage of that. So that would have been something. Nice. It would have been something, but instead we got nothing. No Becky. So a little Becky and then no Becky. Just a waste of Becky. You want to capitalize on the fact that, again, if someone was saying like, oh, I like Becky Lynch. Has she been gone? I haven't checked it out in a while. Let me turn on SmackDown. Okay, there's Becky. What else do I got? Who's this? Otis? I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Happy Corbin. Fuck out of here. Like you're not helping get that lapsed Becky fan. And then you got, no Cena, of course. No one would have expected John Cena to be there, but he could have been there to just say one more thing like, I fucked up, guys. Sorry. I said I was going to beat him and I didn't. Something, just an appearance. Yes, we got Finn Balor, but why has he not been figured in to the stuff that he's been excluded from in a working way, and he's had to miss these few paydays. What would you recommend if anybody missed SummerSlam? They could have said, oh man, I got to check out SmackDown and see what's going to go on. Nothing went on. It was a lot of bullshit. And that's, if you're going to do anything, it should be on these type of shows, not even so much the go home shows, not even necessarily to build hype for the SummerSlam. Because there's people that only watch big events too. Like there's that group of people. Like, I don't need to watch weekly television. And why would you? Because let's face it, if you watch SummerSlam, part of what makes it so long is that you're going to have to watch those recap packages that they insert before every match to catch up the people that weren't watching.
Right.
So we get punished for following along every week. And then the casual fans get caught up in one show. So they don't need to watch a month of SmackDown to see a pay-per-view. So when they tune into these after pay-per-view shows, that's your chance. Throw everything, hope they stick around. And then if you want to screw them over later, the next 2-3 weeks, then try to do that. But give them something on the show after. And this was just a horrible mess that had a lot of stuff that was completely unrelated to SummerSlam or anything that happened on it.
Yeah. You mentioned Happy Corbin. How dare you, sir? Stop bringing that up. That was just traumatic.
Sorry, I was putting myself in the headspace of this theoretical fan.
So, but I mean, those are all good points. Like, that's the thing. Why not capitalize on the show after? I mean, the Raw after WrestleMania is always the biggest. Because it's always something that happens. Do you think that the Raw and SmackDown after the tentpole events, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, do you think those should be like they should have their own kind of like the Raw after WrestleMania type feel where you never know what's going to happen? Because let's be honest, the Raw after WrestleMania has always been something that people watch because there's always something that happens after. I mean, why do you think New Japan has, after Wrestle Kingdom, they have New Year's Dash?
New Year's Dash, yeah.
Because they do some crazy stuff there, and that sets the tone for the next year, after Wrestle Kingdom. And, I watch it. I watch, it's in a, it's not in anything as glamorous as the Tokyo Dome, but sometimes that show is just as much fun as the Wrestle Kingdom shows, Do you feel they should do a better job of, after these tentpole, legacy pay-per-views, that they should have, these, WrestleMania, afters that should be like, hey, look at this, and then we're gonna fuck you over the next week and the next 4 weeks after until the next tentpole, but at least you're doing something, right? I mean,
no, I think they should tank it and they should set a world record on how much tarp footage that they can have in one indoor arena. I think that's what they should do. Of course, they should do a better job. I mean, they should do a better job in everything they do across the board. And so should everyone who's in business of any kind should strive to do a better job. We should all do a better job in our personal lives of like personal hygiene. You should do a better job of brushing your teeth or combing your hair or whatever the case may be. Everybody should do a better job. I mean, not us, John. We don't have to worry about combing our hair, but we got to make sure our teeth is brushed and, everything like that. Like, everybody should do a better job at everything. So of course that, but I do think that it's important for your business, because if you show somebody 2 shows in a row, like you can see some real stars here, that's going to get people in the buildings. That's going to get people buying tickets. If the people buy the tickets, they might buy, a foam finger or a plush doll or a t-shirt or a toy or anything else that's going to make you more money and is going to afford you the opportunity to reach a wider audience.
Right.
That is, your goal should be to spread like a disease and cover the globe. Like one of those movies where they show the zombie outbreak going,
right.
That's what the WWE should try to do. And they've done a very good job at that, but they haven't necessarily done a good job of keeping those people happy. Of course, they're going to be the people that blindly follow and mark out, and they defend it. They defend the WWE at every turn, and it gets embarrassing when you see the AEW fans and WWE fans arguing with each other. Like, you guys realize how stupid you are, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Sticking up for some company that doesn't give a shit about you. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But it would just seem obvious to me that if you have a SummerSlam where you're trying to let everybody know, hey, look, Brock Lesnar came back. Look, he's got a funny haircut. Or, hey, look, the man is back. She's the champ now. Or, John Cena was there. He said he promised he was going to beat Roman Reigns. Did he? Like, you could have those 3 people at least. And for the people like, Brock is probably going to be a rare appearance. But if you get him, people will feel like, oh, I can't miss it. What if Brock shows up randomly?
Right.
If you see Becky Lynch, it's like, if you see she's going to be there the whole time. She's going to be a full-time player. So you're going to want to see her at least 3-4 times. She should get the Roman Reigns treatment,
right?
But her version of it,
right?
You know what I mean? So those are the things that you would expect to see. And if you can't even do that basic part of it, then I don't know. That's very disappointing, I would say.
Yeah. Do you think? Okay, so they were in Little Rock on Friday night. Do you think? I saw. We saw pictures of the Hameen Tarpon Podium, in full effect in Little Rock. And even though they kind of maybe intimated that maybe Brock would be there, do you think the fact that they had nobody there really hurts, even though they had, hey, Brock might be here, Becky Lynch is going to be here. We had these kind of things coming, and yet they still couldn't sell out the Little Rock Arena or wherever they were at. Do you think are they too far gone, to where some of this stuff doesn't even register anymore? I mean, Becky Lynch coming back. This is her first appearance on TV since, SummerSlam. And, she's massive for everybody, but yet we're in Little Rock and we're having to tarp stuff because we can't sell it out, or are they tarping stuff because, they just like, well, this is where we're wanting to film and this is where we're going to do. We don't need
they do that all the time, but it's usually not a lot. It's just like a certain section where the hard cam is. They don't want people there because I think it'll pick up the, their audio a little bit more than they like or something. But they should always be concerned about not selling out. That's the whole thing. Like that's the lifeblood of the entire business. I mean, in my opinion. So, but it could be for the other thing is we're living in a certain period of time where there's a lot of yo-yoing and questioning about, what do we do with these public gatherings and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, limited capacity, full capacity, mask on, mask off, vax on, vax off. These different things that we have to deal with that are different from town to town, state to state, whatever, it's up to whatever the guidelines are at the current time. And people keep changing those guidelines. So, maybe that plays a part into it, of which like we can't get as many people, or maybe they can use that as an excuse. In any case, it never hurts to put your best foot forward, even if you don't sell out, because you have to let people feel as though it's going to be a problem if they miss something. You have to make people feel like, I didn't buy a ticket to this SmackDown, but Brock was there, so maybe I should have, and next time I will. That's the mindset that you have to create in your loyal fan base they're loyal, but maybe they're too busy that night, or they have to wash their hair or whatever they do. It's like you have to make them feel like, hey, you're going to miss out. That's where a lot of their TV time is filler, because they're showing you earlier tonight on Raw, if you missed this, like here's what happened. It's like, no, don't show them what happened. If they missed it, they missed it. Fuck them. You got to make them feel like they got to be there. It's appointment TV. If you're not there, you're not cool. You're not seeing what's going on. We're not gonna keep repeating ourselves for you if you can't even bother to show up. You have to create the fear of missing out, the FOMO, and then it's not everything, but that will help to drive your business a little bit more. Right. If people feel like the only way they can see something is to buy a ticket, or the only way they're going to see who they want to see, or a certain match is to watch Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, whatever it is, you have to make the people feel like, I can't miss it. Right. And they definitely show you every chance they get that, yeah, you could totally miss it. You won't actually miss anything. Yeah. It might even be the same exact bullshit the next time you tune in.
Yeah. I mean, we saw that with the Rollins, right before the Rollins Edge mailed in promos. We saw that they were showing, oh, this is what happened at SummerSlam. Here's the match flow recap, because they got to get that little, plug in for Progressive, I think, or whatever that,
all I would have said is like, guys, if you miss SummerSlam, you miss a hell of a party. You miss the biggest party of the summer, and you can catch it right now on Peacock. It's on demand anytime, and then just don't talk about what happened on it.
Right. Go grab the cock.
Grab the cock
for $9.99.
Yeah,
and
let's let it shoot all over your eyeballs.
Exactly. You got anything you need. So I mean, I felt this was a very, like, coming off SummerSlam with the possibilities. It felt, for me as a fan, it felt like a really bad SmackDown. Like, I was not.
It was bad.
It was bad. Like there was. I didn't get to
Raw
see
was no better, by the way. Raw was no better, by the way. It's the same thing, only an hour longer. But it's even worse.
See, here's the thing. I just try to watch WWE's like top 10 moments from Raw, and I can't even handle that. After about like
10, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I know, right?
And they don't have 10 good moments either.
No,
so
you're watching
the bad
this
part.
I'm going, well, this made the top 10 moments. I was like, what the fuck? Okay. And it's only 6 minutes long, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the longest 6 minutes I've ever been in my life.
Longer than a Roman Reigns entrance.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. But to me, this is the show that there had a lot of expectation. especially coming off SummerSlam, and they delivered on zero of it. And
because they push the SmackDown as like the big show. That's why Brock Lesnar's on it. Even though last time we saw him, he was on Raw. And Becky Lynch was on Raw last time we saw her. Like she handed over the Raw title to Asuka, right?
Yeah.
Or the Money in the Bank. Yeah. She handed over the title because she had the briefcase. It was like instant cash in, like a forfeit. Yeah. And so both these big returns were both on Raw, and now they're moved over to SmackDown. Like, hey guys, like SmackDown's the real #1 show. We're on Fox. You know, we got to make them. We got to appease Fox because they're upset that we got the cock on Universal, which is a competitor. Yeah,
you know, and I mean, and then we had the return of other characters that felt less than. You know, Cesaro, Liv Morgan, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Finn Balor. Even Finn Balor's return, you know, it felt less than, because you know he comes out and he wants to challenge Roman, and then the Street Profits come in, you know, and I guess they're the #1 contenders now. I mean, I don't even know anymore.
News to me.
Yeah, I know. Like the last I saw, they were getting beat again, you know. So, but they're the contenders now because they're the ones who stepped up to take on the Usos while Finn Balor's getting his butt kicked.
That's right. You know? That's right. You see that, Naomi? You see that? That's how you do it. Just go out there and take
it. You know, but you know, I mean, and again, I was never a big one to see Roman Reigns and Finn Balor to begin with, because you just look at it. I mean, there's no way, you know, that Finn Balor does it unless they do the whole, as you say, storyline of the underdog. And well, maybe, but it's going to take a lot for him to do it and some fluke thing, and they pull it off that way. But that's not who Finn Balor is as a character, you know. Right. And so it doesn't work because that's not who he is. But yet,
no, it'll work, John, because when Finn Balor is in the ring kicking somebody's ass, you believe it because what you're seeing. He's not as big as them, but he fights as big as them.
Gotcha.
So he's a New Japan guy. What do you expect?
Right. Well, but I mean, at the same time too, I haven't seen him in a month and a half. So, I mean,
yeah,
you know,
well, that's the thing. Like when you would see him and guys like in NXT with guys like Cross, you know what I mean? Beating the shit out of Karrion Kross. It's like, yeah, I didn't question it for a second. And, you know, there's probably some guys he could legitimately beat the shit out of. So the fact that he's a little bit small, it's small compared to Roman. Well, a lot of people are small compared to Roman.
Yeah, he is. You're right.
He'll make you believe if you get that match. I mean, he had a match with Brock, you know, and that was a good match. So, so it's all about the way they do it. And I'm sure he and Roman would do it in a way that would make you say, oh, yes. But just him being in, like, his return in that main event program. And we always talk about how the main event program belongs on its own show because everything else is just so inferior to it. So that automatically raised the profile of Finn Balor's return, in my opinion.
Sure. No, you're right.
Maybe you felt like it was a little bit less than, and sure, it's less than it could have been because we should have had Finn Balor, whatever he was doing, maybe he should be mailing in promos. Like if he had to be home because of COVID or some other reason we don't know, then he can be sending in the Edge promos and the Seth Rollins promos. Like, look, just because I'm not there doesn't mean I'm going to let you get away with this bullshit, John Cena, with your fake signature and all this. Like just to keep him fresh in our minds, right? But they don't think like that. They just think, oh, well, the pop when it's a slight surprise. He's been gone for a few weeks. Yeah, well,
right. No. You know, I just. You know, it's gonna this build up for Extreme Rules. I just, you know, now that they've said, oh, this is what I want you at Extreme Rules, and I'm not waiting for it. I'm just scared for the build up now, and for the roster, and for what's going to happen, and where do we go from here? You know, because and I even forgot about Naomi coming back. You know, that's another return that got just dumped on. You know, I mean, you know, again, another person who's going to help the women's roster in a good way. Yet we dump on that, you know.
Wouldn't it have made sense for her to be one of the people that came out for the four-way thing?
Exactly.
Because why wouldn't she? If she was sitting there waiting for something to do and she sees everybody else out there saying,
why would she not be out there?
Yeah, why wouldn't I also?
Hey, I'm a former champ. Why, you know, I could be
hit my music, please.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so you know, honestly, like I really am not looking forward to the next few weeks, to be honest with you, because there's nothing that's made me want to go, oh, I really need to watch this. You know, I mean, like you said, It's been a while for Finn Balor. So am I off of him a little bit? Yes, because it's been a while since I've seen him wrestle and watched him in a long time. But the problem is I don't trust WWE. If this was a New Japan ring, that'd be totally different. I wouldn't worry about it 1 second because I've seen it and I know what he can do. But I don't trust WWE with him to let him do what they did in New Japan.
Well, just trust Paul and Roman to do it.
That's the hope.
You'll have to put them trust in them because they're almost like they're on an island right now,
right?
And they're not going to go along with anything that is foolishness, and they have no reason to be challenged with foolishness because whatever they're doing is working and people are praising it. So anybody that's coming in with an outside creative, they don't need to. Right. The job is already done. So why try to fix it if it ain't broke? So I think Paul and Roman will take care of Finn. That won't be an issue. The issue is what happens when he's done with that and what's next. And of course that's scary. And it's always a scary prospect to think about watching SmackDown in the future. So it's best to just not do it and live one day at a time.
Yeah.
Fortunately I was here to help you get through it therapeutically. I think we talked some things out.
We did.
I won't mention the thing that I keep mentioning.
Thank you.
We'll just forget about that.
Yeah. Until it shows up next week.
Until he shows up next week. Yeah. That's another issue where it's like, they don't like that guy. They're ribbing him. They're entertaining themselves. They know it's bad. This will never go anywhere. It will never mean anything. People are out of their mind praising it. I can't believe Ben Hameen praises this stuff. This is the worst stuff I've ever seen in my life. But not that he's praising this. I'm sure he won't be praising this on the next SmackDown review with Stevie. The Happy Corbin thing, he'll be complaining about how they didn't take the other thing far enough, but the other thing was like atrocious television to me, even though a lot of people liked it. But
I liked it from a standpoint because it felt like his comeuppance. It's like finally this guy's getting his comeuppance, because he's been such an asshole for so long.
Right.
And it's kind of, so that's how I viewed it from a fan point of view. It's like, okay, this guy's getting his comeuppance. I'm glad.
But it's even that is like, it should have been that. Like, you're right to feel that way, but you're wrong because it's like the cartoon version of it, like the Disney afternoon version of the fucking comeuppance where he's got the fake stain on his shirt all the time.
Right.
It's like that's their idea of that's the level of creative you get when it's not the main event program.
Right. And my only one thing is like, okay, bro, you're Baron Corbin. I get it. You're down on your luck, but like I make $25,000 a year and I still find a way to shave my head every day that I need to. You mean to tell me you had to let your hair go because you couldn't find a way to shave your head? I mean,
that part costs nothing.
Yeah, I find a way to shave my head. I'm going to have to do it here in a minute because I have a wedding to perform tonight. So I got to clean everything up, make it look nice. I can make that work, Baron. There's some products and gimmicks I can tell you that are not expensive that you can get and you're able to shave your head every time, but at the same time too, it was like, I guess for me,
he can sneak in and get his wife's Venus.
Oh yeah. There you go. But to me, I guess that's one where I could see your point of view of it being cartoonish, but like that's where I enjoyed it a little bit because it was so cartoonish and over the top that because that's what made it different from everything else. And so and it brought that levity to the program that I felt was just something different. So that's why I kind of liked it a little bit more, being the way it was, because it was just something different and unique. And then in the process, this guy's getting his comeuppance with all these goofy things that was happening. And so that's why I kind of dug it. But the other thing that happened tonight was,
well, look what it led to.
Yeah, I know.
It was all for this.
For this. Yeah.
This is kind of like a microcosmic view of everything, because it's all subjective. Like whatever we like. Sometimes we can't explain it. Sometimes we can. It's different for everybody, and compared to your own life experiences and tastes and everything. Blah 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 blah. All that stuff. But when like one thing that you can always know for sure is that whatever the WWE does, if you end up liking it, it will go nowhere.
Yeah.
There is no light at the end of the tunnel for something that is going through a rough patch. It will not come out better. They don't know what they're doing. They're making it up as they go. There is no plan. It will not be good. Stuff will just get dropped. You'll invest all this time into it just for them to turn on a dime and completely undercut everything that they built up to that point. And that's what you always have to look forward to. That is the constant. That is a guarantee that you can get with the WWE, is that anything that you like will be ruined in short order or long order, but it will be ruined. So that's unfortunate. I did want to ask, before I forget, because we talked about New Japan a little bit, did you happen to catch any of the last Korakuen Hall shows, or like the Summer Struggle where Hiromu made his return match?
Yeah, I did see the Summer Struggle event, and I saw Hiromu, and again, that dude just, I mean, I swear, I think he has a death wish. Like,
Hiromu has a death wish.
He has a death wish. I mean,
he's on my list. He's on my list of 3 people that you cannot talk to in terms of like rational, because they know exactly what they're doing. It's not like a question of, oh, he doesn't know any better. He knows what he's doing and he doesn't care. And that list includes Hiromu, Shotzi, and what's the other kid? Darby Allin. Those 3. They're all doing it on purpose, and you can't talk to them because that's what they want to do.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of Shotzi, no Shotzi. Yeah. No Knox tonight.
No Knox. No, nothing.
But yeah, so you saw that match. Mm-hmm. Now speaking of guys that do not care, my God, I think he does care. Doki. Yeah. What is wrong with that kid? When he jumped out of the ring and splatted himself, I've seen him splat himself on that concrete many, many times. People refuse to catch him. They will just not catch him. And he keeps doing it. And I don't know if this is like a game of chicken, like one of you is going to catch me or I'm going to die. Like one of it's going to happen, that he's playing. But man, that was one of the grossest bumps I've ever seen. Cause it looked like he hit the corner of the rail when not only did he smash his hip on the ground, but he looked like he hit the corner of the rail when he jumped on him. And I'm just like, kid, that I know this is the biggest match of your life, but can you not? Can you please not?
Yeah, I thought he died. I literally thought he died at that moment. I'm like, that was nasty. I was just going, oh my God, like what are you even thinking at that moment? And like, and then if the guy doesn't catch you, like, how do you, like, at some point in his brain, he had to be going, oh shit, like, what do I do? Like, how do I protect myself at this point? Because there's nothing he could do. And I mean, I thought he was dead. I literally thought, man, dude, he's dying. He's dying.
As a trained wrestler, John, I can tell you that I've never done anything like that. And neither has anyone else on the fucking planet ever. You don't train for stuff like that. You don't just, let me just practice my barricade jumps. No, it does not happen. He did that for the first time he ever did it that time. That was the first and hopefully last time that he ever does something like that. But God, that kid, he wants so bad to get over. Yeah. I think he's over at this point enough doing that stuff. The people get it. Like they've seen it enough. He doesn't have to keep doing it. Yeah. And Hiromu just can't keep doing it because he keeps getting hurt and he's too valuable. Yeah. Now I have a theory. Tell me what you think. Like, okay, a lot of people you hear about, the narrative is for foreigners wherever they're from. You always hear the same thing, like, you got to learn to speak English if you want to get over in America, bro. Like that's the narrative that we hear, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think if you can get over, you can get over. Yeah. And there's like, and for anybody that disagrees, like, what's your favorite Goldberg promo? It doesn't matter if you speak English or not. But anyways, there are guys I think that I think a lot of probably anybody in New Japan can get over to a certain degree, but I think that one of the absolute easiest layup, softball, any other sports analogy you want to think of, a guy that could just come and get over instantly overseas is Hiromu. Did you agree with that?
Oh, totally. I mean, that guy oozes charisma without even having to speak half the time. People love him, and he gets over on his drawings. With Daryl and, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, sometimes he just, I don't remember if it was like it was last year, maybe with the Best of Super Juniors, where he would just have these drawings. And
yes, he had a drawing
like
for everybody in the tournament.
In the tournament, he would say like a couple of phrases, couple lines about him, and that was it. And dude, that was so awesome and over. Like he's like Shinsuke. He is a Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke doesn't have to talk. He doesn't do anything. Dude uses charisma, and he's over AF. I mean, people just love Shinsuke. I love Shinsuke, and I think Hiromu is that same guy. But
totally different because he's more comedic in a way that's a universal, like no one can say it's only funny to Japanese people, like when he's sitting there talking to the belt and stuff like that, like having a whole conversation with this championship belt, that's funny to anybody.
Or the trophy, or things like that. And the thing that I like about him too is like almost in a way, even when he gets hurt, he still finds ways to keep himself over. Giving the cryptic notes of maybe he'll be back and the things along those lines. He continues to be that character and to do those things. There was one time back when he was getting ready to wrestle Will Ospreay, and like he knew Will Ospreay liked chicken, and so he like bought him chicken, but it was fried chicken, and he had fried it himself, but Will liked grilled chicken. And it was like, thank you. I prefer grilled chicken. And he's like, oh my God. And like, but then they're like having this conversation. The interpreter says that he made it himself. He's like, holy shit. Okay. Well, I'll eat it. Like who does that? Like you're getting ready for a match and you give this guy, fried chicken because you heard he liked it. And, he likes grilled chicken. And then the rest, and then Hiromu was embarrassed by it. And everybody's just loving this whole interaction because it's like amazing, because you're going, who does this? Like what right now is happening? And, he just does these things that are funny, quirky, off the top, different. And you're just going, what's he going to do next? I mean, really, he's that whether it be in the ring or out of the ring, you wonder what he's going to do next. And because everything he's done has been so enjoyable. And so I don't want to say childlike, but childlike is the best way to describe it for me. So I hate it when he gets hurt and he has to take time off. But at the same time, too, he does some creative and unique stuff even when he's got that time off. So I can't blame him for that because it's like he's still working. He's still doing the gimmick. Mm-hmm. He's still doing the thing he needs to do to let the fans know that he's there and that he's a part of this. I mean, unlike some people where they get hurt or whatever and you don't hear from them for 6 months and then boom, all of a sudden they're back and you're going, what happened? Who are you now? Or they're different in some way. He doesn't do that. He's a guy that could translate across the world, and he should. And so I heard somebody say, could Robbie Eagles versus Hiromu be the main event for night one of Wrestle Kingdom? Because, if they have a 2-night event again, I could see that happening, because Hiromu is such a big charismatic character. I'm not saying Robbie Eagles couldn't pull it off.
No.
I mean, he's like a wet blanket. He's, Australia. Not saying the kid's not a good wrestler. It's just personality wise, especially when you compare it to Hiromu, I'd rather see, Despy versus Hiromu again at wrestling, night one main event.
Well, the match they had was so good.
Oh my God.
It's like I can't even believe that there's people that really aren't watching this.
Yeah.
Like you're seriously watching this WWE AEW bullshit. Like they're the only people, New Japan's the only people left that are trying to uphold the sport the way it's supposed to be, the way it was always meant to be. Because when they see something that's from somewhere else, they like, well, how can we do this? How can we keep this tradition and somehow make it better? Like that's what they always do. And professional wrestling is no different. So they're still trying to maintain those levels of kayfabe but still bring enough sensibilities of, like Gato is just such a big fan of like American wrestling or all kinds of wrestling that he's able to help these guys out and give them just the little bits that they need, to have that sort of a worldwide appeal. Only problem is the world doesn't know they're supposed to be watching it. And I'm not even entirely sure that the world would appreciate what they were seeing if they did. Because it's not the same thing where you can't just show somebody a match out of context and expect them to care as much as the people they've been invested in for weeks, months, years, decades, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's a really hard sell at first. But I mean, to anybody that is a sports fan, you got to be watching New Japan. You cannot be watching this bullshit. You can't.
Well, and the thing I love about New Japan is they let things breathe and take time. Like this Hiromu Despy match that we're talking about. I mean, really, it started 10 years ago. You know, I mean, in their relationship, and they used to be friends and things like that. And and it was very interesting. Post match, Hiromu says, "When I took that mask off, I didn't see my friend anymore. I saw El Desperado. Like that's all he saw was that, that his friend was gone, kind of thing." And so like, you can't tell me that's not good storytelling to, for that aspect. And then letting things go for so long and let things breathe for 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden it comes back. I mean, that is the thing that we want. Yeah. Let them go off, do their thing, 6, 8, 10 months, 12 months down the road, and then bring it back. All of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. I really like this. And they do that,
So to me, Hiromu was like a layup for a guy that could get over. But to the point about that, as far as like it's not even necessarily that it's planned out, but you come back to it at the right moments. When is the right time to come back to it. And one example too is like, just to relate to any fans that watch, that grew up like kind of in our era of watching wrestling, but haven't really watched any New Japan. If you take the series of like the dozen or 13 or 14 matches that Okada and Tanahashi had, and like you watch those, it's like the story within those stories, the long picture, which they probably didn't even know what they were doing at the start of it, but it's what it became.
Right.
And just the stories that they told within the matches and within groups of matches and over the years and at the events, like to put that in perspective for American fans, that's what you should have gotten with Brett and Sean if they could have gotten over themselves,
right,
and done the right business. Like their paths would have kept intersecting, and every so often you would have had a fucking amazing match that you would be like, wow, that's one of the greatest matches of all time. And they would have kept having that, but instead we only got a handful of matches with those guys because they just weren't the professional types, right? Whereas, so, I mean, Brett was, but Sean not as much at that time. But like, the point is, whatever that could have been, that's what Okada and Tanahashi did for their time and their era.
Yeah,
and it's amazing. And there aren't that many people that will just dismiss it because they think it's funny to make fun of Dave Meltzer for liking those guys. Well, a broken clock is right twice a day. Of course, he's got to like guys that are the best in the world at what they do.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris Jericho, but like,
or CM Punk.
Those two guys really are the best in the world. And you can't tell me any different. But it's just so unfortunate that it's not as I don't know. I feel like people just sleep on it way too much. And it's unfortunate because they are the same people that are complaining about the stuff that they have to watch every week.
Right.
It's like all that stuff that you were looking for is over there, and you're not seeking it out. You're not giving it a chance.
Right. And let's be honest, you get rewarded. So like, I mean, I got, when the G1 was in Dallas that year was 2 years ago. I got to see Tanahashi and Okada and the main event on night 1 of the G1 in Dallas. And I'm telling you, it was a hell of a match. I mean, if there's no storytelling behind any of that, we don't get that. I got to see a hell of a match at the beginning of the match with Lance and beginning the Murder Hawk Monster, thing with Will Ospreay. And that match was incredible. Easily one of my favorite matches, not because I'm biased for Lance, but if I'm honest, I was hoping he would win, but knowing that he wasn't even booked for the G1, he just worked his ass off to get tickets and promote here in the area. And they, he's thinking because he's at least could get booked on the show because he lives in Dallas, and they end up booking him into the G1, give a guy an opportunity, you make the most of it. Look at what he's done with that. Except fuck you, AEW, for how you book him.
It's exactly, that's the worst.
Yeah, I mean, but you get to see that Okada, knowing that. I mean, I got to see that match live in person, not on a TV screen, in real life, which made it that much more. I appreciated that so much more and especially the rivalry and everything that happened, I was able to appreciate that match way more than what I've seen on TV. You've seen matches and seeing on TV, but seeing it live, watching them move and watching them, just be able to do the things they need to do. No sound, no nothing. They just know what they're doing, and they're putting it in, and they're getting it done. And they are listening to the crowd. They're doing what the crowd wants. They are just making the crowd eat from their hand, telling an incredible match. You can't get that anywhere else. That's why that's why I'm looking forward to when they come to Dallas. I get to watch Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer take on Dirty Tom Lawler and whoever his partner is. But I'm gonna I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna get to watch Will Ospreay. I'm gonna get to watch, everybody else coming. It's gonna be good because they know how to tell a story in the ring. That's where it counts. The stuff outside of it is lagniappe, as they say back home in Louisiana. It's extra, it's bonus. Where it counts is in the ring, and that's where New Japan rewards its fans with what they do in the ring every time. And that's why I love watching it. And I look forward to things like the G1 because it's such a unique tournament that's getting ready to come up.
Oh, yeah.
You have guys running shows for a month and a half, and they're just round robin between groups of guys and getting matchups that you're going, oh wow, I didn't expect that. And
because a singles match in New Japan is a treat.
It is.
And so when you get a bunch of them, and it because of the format, you get matches that you wouldn't get because guys within their own factions have to fight, and just you get matches you would never see.
Yeah,
that's how I got into watching New Japan. I'm just gonna watch a whole G1. I don't even care. I don't know who anybody is. I'm just gonna watch it. I didn't know who nobody was, but you know what I mean? Like the majority wasn't familiar with anybody's gimmicks, but that's the thing. They got over to me just with their work. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive because a lot of guys can't do that. But they all do have the gimmicks and the characters, and they have the things that everybody claims that they like about pro wrestling. So the guys just aren't watching it. So
which is unfortunate. You can get New Japan World for $999 or
999 yen, which is the rough equivalent of under $10 or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It fluctuates with the exchange rate. Every bill that I get is a different amount, by a few cents.
Exactly. But you're getting to watch all that. You can watch New Japan Strong every Friday night, which is an hour of, I think, really good television. Again, I'm not saying that because I'm biased because my friend Barrett Brown is on the show on New Japan Strong. I'm saying that because it's really good TV. Yes, Barrett is on there and he's my friend.
Which is going to have some people now because they have some promotion to do. You're going to get to see some Tanahashi on New Japan Strong and some other people that will normally make the trip.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Will Ospreay's staying around. He's staying in America to wrestle on that show.
Yeah, I could do without him, but anyway, other people.
Yeah.
I want Japanese people from Japan. I don't need to see English people from Japan, but think about this, John. If you go to that G1, you're going to get to sing Kaze Ninare when Suzuki comes out. How's that going to feel?
Oh my God. I'm going to love it so much. I'm going to be so excited.
As a guy that's done it a couple times, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And
it's sorely missing from the shows now because the people aren't allowed to speak out. So, so they have to be quiet during that part, but
not America, not Texas, baby. Woo, let's go. Yeah. So we're going to get to blare that out, and that'll be just spine tingling because he wasn't here he wasn't in that G1. Lance was in that G1, but he wasn't. So which was sad. So that was, I think, Zack Sabre Jr. And then, which is funny because Zack was there, Lance was there, and then Tai Chi was there, but Tai Chi didn't wrestle, and they brought him up and everything. And so I was at the Lance helped us go to the press conference the day before, and he was like, I don't even know why the fuck I'm here. Like, I'm not even wrestling. Like, he didn't wrestle at all. And so it was just very funny, very cool. And then Lance showed some pictures of them hanging out. He sent me some pictures of them hanging out at his place. Got a pool, and he's barbecuing and taking care of Zach and Tai Chi, at his place, helping and just I'm just hanging out by the pool with these guys, my stable mates, and we're just having a good time, and they're just they're all enjoying the pool, and it's like, all right, so is he gonna do that for Suzuki when Suzuki comes? I'm sure he will, because Lance lives in Cedar Hill, which is South Dallas area, So he probably is like 20, 30 minutes from Garland, not that far. So I'm sure he'd probably have Suzuki stay in his guest room and he'll barbecue for him and they'll swim in the pool and have a good time. And,
if Suzuki's going to have to go fishing at some point, that's going to have to happen.
Yeah.
So. But that's going to be pretty cool. Next time I go on Destino, I'll bring you along and me and Jargo will just sit here and mark out for 2-hour podcast.
Yeah. He had mentioned something, maybe coming back for the G1, when they're talking about the G1 preview, maybe like me, you, him, and a few other people do a roundtable. So we'll do that. We'll get back on Destino and talk about it because this is Smackdown.
We had to have some dessert.
Yeah.
After the shit sandwich that we got.
Yeah.
We had to cleanse the palate a little bit with some New Japan talk, some actual professionals, some actual wrestlers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to put those guys over just a little bit to wipe this off. But I guess we're done here for the day, huh?
We are. Where can people find you on the interwebs and all your talkings and things like that?
Well, at Opinion Haver everywhere will lead you to me, all one word, on your social media platform of choice, except for Facebook. I'm no longer on Facebook, but everywhere else, from Twitter to Instagram to YouTube. If you go to YouTube, go to my Opinion Haver page, you'll find a playlist with all the podcasts that I've done on YouTube with Hameen Media Group. So if you just can't get enough vet, you can always just go in there, and they're in a handy playlist for you. So anywheres, type in @Opinion Haver and see what comes up. It's a fun little game you can play. And then, as for Hameen Media Group itself, you can find me every Wednesday morning with Big Ray on the Next Level Wrestling Review. You can find me every whenever we get a chance to record it, with Colin, on the Impact Attack, but it'll probably be, usually it's Sunday nights at some weird time. So we like to go live around then, as long as we'll still be doing that. Those are the two main shows. And of course, you're already listening to me here on the Smack Attack, which I always like to hang out with the fellas, be a guest, and have some fun. And that's me.
That's you. Well, you can find me everywhere on the internet, JReezyMin, for Twitter and Instagram and TikTok for the fun of it. Quality dad jokes are getting told.
I do have a TikTok. I just don't use it, so you can follow me, but I'll never know.
Yeah, I'll follow you on TikTok. So now because I told you. There's that, and then on Facebook, John Enright, for there. And then if you want to talk mental health and have a direction to go for your mental health journey, you're more than welcome to email me, john@freedomhousepc.org. We are a nonprofit here in Weatherford, Texas, helping victims of abuse, but we can also help people as they begin their mental health journey. So please always feel free to reach out. Don't forget to follow Jackson Stone, youarelovedlife.com. Great place to find resources for mental health advocacy or just to begin your journey there as well. He's also a professional wrestler, so why not support a professional wrestler doing some good in the world? It's a rare thing, so go ahead and do that. The guy is just a class act and now MPX champion, local champion here in one of the local promotions here that runs weekly in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is very cool. And then, of course, don't forget about James Money MacGyver. Go follow him on the interwebs. I don't remember what all of his stuff is because his stuff is different from Twitter to Instagram to all that stuff. Just go follow him, find him. You'll see him. He's got his big goofy smiling face there. And of course, you can always contact us at the Smack Attack through the emails and things like that I'm sure James will have at the bottom, through Twitter and through our email there to find out what it is you want to hear about, talk about, or give us your reactions. We've talked about all kinds of things. We've talked about if the A-Team were to be in WWE, how would we book them, and various things along those lines. So the fun stuff that the fans want to hear. That is everything for today. Once again, Vet, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you, James, for producing this and putting it together. So hopefully this goes out in a prompt manner. So you'll hear it. It won't be another lost episode. We're putting the heat on James on that one.
But he had enough time to post a hashtag new profile pic an hour ago.
Oh, wow. So apparently that Blackpool vacation is going very well.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well, that's a place you try to get away from, right?
yeah, it sounds like it. You don't want to go. But you know, he lives in Scotland. He's going down to England. What good can there really be in that area? So don't show up, James, if we talk bad about your country. So that's where you can find us this week. Make sure also don't forget, I know the realm is not right now functioning in the way it normally should be, but it will be back. So don't forget, once the realm is back, we'll be there. And some of you are getting your emails and things along those lines that have these shows on it. So make sure you're subscribed to the Realm Network so that you can follow all of us and all the Hami Media Group things. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel as well for Hami Media Group, because sometimes things will pop up there. So make sure you're following us to know the latest and greatest of where we're going to be at, because we will not be silenced. We will let our voices be heard in some way, shape, or form. They can't keep us out. So with that all said, I will say adios, muchachos. Not James's normal cheery, but I will say adios, muchachos, and have a great week, and we'll talk to you next time.